did it! Can he bring it home? Son of a gun!
I messed up. Hello again, friends. And you are our friends. And welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru, where we catch ourselves yelling in the early moments of the show and we correct course. I'm your host, the great Brian Last. And here he is, the star of the show, Mr. Jim Cornette.
How long have you been fiddling with your organ, Brian? How old were you when you first started fiddling with your organ over there?
How old was I? 42, 41?
It's been a while. You've been organing us for quite some time now, just shaking your organ at us. And that is the first time that you have not hit a single note that went up me like somebody shoving a daggum frozen icicle up your fucking sphincter. There was nothing in there that just made me want to rip my ears off the sides of my heads.
So I was right. I messed up. I didn't play it as well as I could have. The barometer is always your screeching and your noise making and your putting down the music that's out there to make the people happy and make the people move and sway.
Oh, it makes people move all right, away in the opposite direction of you. I was trying to give you
That's not nice.
Some type of compliment here for the first time ever on what you really, I was complimenting what you didn't do. I didn't say it was good. I just say you didn't fucking hurt me. And also I was going to say thank you because I do have Nature Boy Buddy and Alfred Puddensworth Cornette up here in their little playpen in the office today because Stacy's taking her mom to the doctor for her checkup and etc. So I'm watching the babies, but they're enjoying their big old chew stick. And I've already made you somewhat physically ill before we went on the air today, talking about how this morning in the floor in the TV room was all of the belly rubbing and the puppy kissing and the fur cuddling and the sleeping in the arms like a little baby. And I thought you were going to just regurgitate your French toast, so I had to lay off of that. You don't like to hear when I'm positive about things, Brian. When I got love in my heart. I got love down in my heart. Down in my heart.
Oh.
Down in my heart. I got the love.
Certainly
love,
not in your
love.
vocal cords. That may be somewhere
down
else.
in my heart. Down in my heart to stay.
Well, you're causing hatred in my ears. No, listen, it's a schmoopy situation. Nobody wants to be standing there while Jerry and his girlfriend are, oh, you're the schmoopy, you're the schmoop. No one wants it.
You're the schmoopy.
It's a one-way schmoopy conversation listening to you and the dogs because they're not answering.
It's a three-way. There's two of them. You're my schmoopy. No, buddy, you're my schmoopy. No, Alfie, you're my schmoopy. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I said their names out loud and said the word schmoopy out loud because that's one of the words that and somebody went, woo. So, but anyway, but they're here. They may,
today. That's right.
They may chime in. It's a studio audience today. But what I was trying to do, Brian, I know it's your show, but I feel like I want to contribute something. Oh, is it okay? Everybody's okay. Okay. Now they get fired up. See?
Oh, schmoopy.
You're just schmoopy. Well, see, you got me talking in that voice, and that's what did it. And I think they'll go back to their chew stick in a minute. But what I'm trying to say to you is that I was trying to contribute to the program. And since I only talked to you again just a couple of days ago, we did this. I really have no new development. My phone's turned back on. Thanks, AT&T. I understand I might get a credit for days of service missed. Nothing is broken down. There's really nothing to discuss. I was zipping through the news. I was trying to find some news in the world, maybe something uplifting or something quirky that we could talk about. I didn't have a chance to read. I read the headline of this, but apparently did Neutrogena kill Hayden Panettiere?
What?
The headline was fans call for boycott of Neutrogena after death of Hayden Panettiere. I thought you'd know about something like that.
Well, this is in the news. It's a very sad story. This young lady just passed away. She's a 36-year-old actress and grew up on TV. People have been watching her for years. It's a very sad story. I've not heard anything.
But why did Neutrogena, was they responsible for her death? Why are they mad at Neutrogena?
I have not seen this story, and you obviously have found this on one of these quirky news sites you go, what is this?
I didn't really know who Hayden Panna is. She on Turner Classic Movies often? Because otherwise I'm not really familiar, but I thought it was an odd headline. I want to know, maybe some of the listeners send us emails on what the situation is and how Neutrogena may have been responsible for the death of Hayden. But while I was looking for news, I found something else, Brian. And I'm going to pop this on you. It's a pop quiz.
It didn't cause her death. They dropped her as a spokesperson when she spoke about her struggles.
Well, of course she's dead. How's she going to...
This is awful. What makes you think of these things? They dropped her a while ago and people are reacting now because she just died. You're horrible. What is wrong with you?
Well, did it lead to her spiral of depression or?
Well, it was because of the depression and her speaking publicly about her depression that they dropped her, which I don't know enough about this. I'm just reading. Well,
that seemed, now then maybe we ought to fucking boycott son of bitches. Because if she's just come out and said, I'm so depressed, well, fuck you, you're done. Well, why is that a thing to say?
I agree. I will continue my boycott of Neutrogena, which started when I was born. I don't think I've ever fought Neutrogena, so the boycott continues.
They made, back when I was a young man, a little tube of an anti-oily fucking nose acne product that you could just, it was clear, so you could just smooth it on whenever you needed a quick fucking degreasing, as teenage boys in the summertime often did back when I was a young man. So I do have some experience with it, but I was never a spokesman for them, and they never poisoned me or anything. But anyway, I found something else, and I want to run this by you. Because this was the headline here, and I want to see if you can take this quiz with me, because I have found a couple of inaccuracies from this fine website, wherever the fuck it's labeled cheapism. I don't know what the fuck. But it's 20 facts about restaurant chains in America that you might not know. Brian, would you like to take this challenge, since you're all the time quizzing me, and see how many of these facts you do or do not know?
We could do this. So this is restaurant chains, not fast food joints. So this encompasses
I read you the title. Restaurant chains in America. Now, I'm not one to. Yeah. I'm just telling you, I'm not going to be the one to determine what is fast food and what is casual and what's fine dining. It's fucking places that sell food in a national chain situation.
And you're going to quiz me on what you're reading.
Well, I'm going to. It has. Did you know these things? And I'm going to see if you know any of the details about it, or if it is true or not. See? Did you know that the Cheesecake Factory restaurant began as a showcase for a bakery?
Yes.
Where did that happen and who did it?
California.
You are correct. Evelyn and Oscar Overton, I don't expect you to know those names, opened their bakery in Los Angeles in 1972. And the puppies are hungry. They're growling, wanting the daggum cheesecake. Chew your stick, babies. All right. Anyway, and their son started selling a cheesecake. What about this? Ruth's Chris Steakhouse got its awkward name because of a fire.
I did not know that. And I've known people who have worked there, but I did not know that.
Apparently, the lady named Ruth bought a restaurant in New Orleans called the Chris Steakhouse in 1965. And when she had a fire and she had to move, but the agreement did not allow the Chris Steakhouse name to move with the restaurant. So she changed it and created her own loophole. See, there's a factoid you might not know.
That's exciting.
This is exciting. P.F. Chang's name actually represents two people. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah.
Philip and Paul are the two fucking yahoos that started this thing.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's skip a couple
no scandals or anything yet. Nothing like, which restaurant has the most people fucking in their bathroom? It's Burger King.
Okay, here we are. IHOP. Speaking of fucking, it's spent its first 15 years without the IHOP name. This is the stupidest thing on this entire list. Because you know what the full name of IHOP is, do you not? Doesn't everybody?
I love IHOP, International House of Pancakes.
Exactly. But this said the first location opened in Toluca Lake, California in 1958. It was the International House of Pancakes. The four-letter IHOP shorthand did not arrive immediately. The marketing campaign introduced it in 1973. But everybody knows that's what that's for. Yeah. Why would you fucking go to a restaurant, IHOP? It sounds like if you didn't know that it was a restaurant, you didn't know it was International House of Pancakes, you would think it was one of those bouncy houses that the kids play in.
What do you think of the look of IHOP?
Actually, the closest to us, the only one I've been in probably 20 years now, smelled a little bit like urination when we went in. So we went out. And otherwise, I haven't seen what they've done with the place lately.
An isolated incident, I would hope. The urine
maybe it was just the booth. Maybe it's because it was the booth we were sitting at. Stace has a better nose than I do, because I'm usually congestified, so it takes something a fairly saucy fucking aroma to really get to me. But she, as soon as we sat down, she was like, "Wait, what?" And then it started creeping up, and it was all right. We'll do something else. Did you know that the first Waffle House, Brian, is now a museum?
I did not, and either did Alfie. Buddy, you want to chime in, buddy?
They're wrestling now. Now, see, they were quiet for 30 minutes chewing that stick as soon as we get on the air. So the first Waffle House is now a Waffle House museum, recreated to look like the original Waffle House from Georgia in 1955.
IHOP's better. But next on the list.
Did you know the first Texas Roadhouse was actually in Indiana? See, I know this. Are you aware of that?
I'm not. Let's go to the next one here on the list. Did you know Dan Blocker started the Bonanza restaurant?
No, he didn't. He was just a spokesperson. He
was just an investor and spokesperson.
Yes, the big wigs got him in on it, and it was a sweet deal there.
See, it was a trick question.
No,
I was trying to
the Texas Roadhouse is based here in Louisville, Kentucky, by the way, but the first chain or first restaurant in the chain was across the river in Clarksville, Indiana. And here I found an error. McDonald's first drive-thru was inspired by soldiers. Said that they were near an army base and the soldiers were not allowed to leave their vehicles or whatever. And so they accommodated them that way, but they stole it from Wendy's. I just saw that on the food that built America. So they may have goddamn opened their first drive-thru out there, but Wendy's had one 5 years earlier.
Anything about Nathan's on this list?
Nothing about Nathan's.
Thank you, buddy.
But White Castle, it says, did you know White Castle was selling 5-cent sliders more than a century ago?
Yes, I did know that.
Everybody knows that. They started in 1921 on the way to the Cincinnati Gardens. Back in the old days, we used to pass by on this side street one of like the original White Castles from the 20s. It was still standing.
Oh, wow.
In the 80s. And it's not only built out of the white block that you see all now they do, but it actually looked like a fucking castle. It was about the size of a goddamn gatehouse in one of these fancy neighborhoods, and it was built like a castle with the turrets and everything. Now it's probably a fucking parking lot or a goddamn data center. Yeah. Rawr.
All right. What about, is there anything about Kenny
There's
Rogers?
nothing else, apparently. No, I'll cease now. I just thought you might be interested in some of these factoids.
Is Kenny Rogers Roaster still a restaurant?
That's on another list, but I think they're all gone. There's always the one odd duck. There's like one fucking Bennigan still left in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan or some shit. So there's always, an odd one around somewhere. But for the most part, I think Kenny got roasted on that deal.
Are there still a lot of Bob's Big Boys?
We never had Bob's Big Boy. We had Frisch's Big Boy. And there's no Frisch's. I think there's one Frisch's left in Lexington, maybe. Or maybe there might be a few out that way. But we have no more Frisch's Big Boys. Because it was Frisch's east of the Mississippi, I think. And then Bob's out to, but we had Jerry's J-Boy. Have you ever seen a Jerry's J-Boy?
Never even heard of it.
I'm thinking that it was a guy that got mad at the big boy company and had been somewhat or whatever, because he blatantly, when I was a kid, that was the little fast food place over here that drive in with the car hops, and they would bring the tray to your window and do the whole 9 yards, right? And see, I'm talking about food and the kids are already fired up. And it was the Jerry's restaurant, Jerry's J-Boy, which was the same thing as a Bob's Big Boy or a Frisch's Big Boy, the double decker with the, the fucking whole 9 yards. And it was all the same type of shit. But the Jerry's was only here in Louisville. I think a former franchisee got pissed off and said, well, I'll fucking show you how big my boy is, and just ripped off the whole goddamn deal. And that is right. It was right near the high school, and now it's a parking lot in a fucking apartment building now. But I lived on Jerry's J-Boys until I was like 11 years old, because there was no McDonald's. I scoff at your McDonald's. There was no goddamn Burger King, no Wendy's. We had a simpler time back then, Brian, when we had the basically old Queenie Bee over at Burger Queen and fucking Jerry's. That was pretty much it.
And what was the first drive-thru you saw?
Goddamn, I was driving. If McDonald's opened theirs in California in 1975, I got my driver's license in 1977. So there wasn't. No, you couldn't drive up to anything in those days. The fucking bank, when we moved to Louisiana in 84, they had a drive up fucking daiquiri place where you could actually drive up and get liquor to drink in the car with you.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
It was a chain of them, and it's Louisiana. So what, but they may still do that. I don't fucking know, but yeah, give me a fucking Hurricane or whatever and pass it out through my driver's window here so I can go on down the road. But we didn't have those things when I was a young man.
Are you surprised there aren't more drive-through pizza places?
No, because it's not a food you want to try to eat in the car. And it's not.
Speak for yourself.
Well,
give me a slice. I want a slice right now. That's what I'm craving.
No, I'm telling you, it's not a food you want to eat in the car. It's unwieldy. Even burger towels doesn't help. Whether it's you or the fucking car, there's going to be some little pizza balls rolling all over the place. And if they're trying to make money, they want to sell the bigger pizzas and try to hand those out through the goddamn window in a car with blah, blah, blah. It'd be a big fuck up. It'd be a goddamn just a scrambled eggs. So no, I'm not surprised that that is the only thing that pizza is. I've gotten them to go and carried them home in the car, but I think pizza is the only kind of food that I've never attempted to eat in a car. And also, if you're alone and you're just driving and eating at the same time with a pizza, you'll have a fucking wreck.
Did you see the pizza places adding things to the menu named after you?
Oh yes, I did see that the pizza place out in Blue Springs, Missouri. Is it Kansas? He's not in Kansas. The food tastes too good for it to come from Kansas, but he's in the Kansas City metropolitan area. And they're adding some Cornette inspired. Are they letting the people vote? I've tried to retain the rules of this thing, but if you go in the pizza place, it's capital THE. And they'll tell you, they'll fill you in, or I think you can go to the website, but they're having people pitch various things, and they have all kinds of artisan pizzas. You know, that new trend, the artisan. Me and Stace were on a trip to goddamn one of the TNA tapings or so one time, and we stopped over at a hotel we want to call. And since this was 20 years ago or whatever, you still called the Domino's a block from the fucking hotel on the room phone, right? You could do that type of thing. It was nice and easy before everything got fucking complicated. And this little town in Georgia had recorded their own outgoing message for, hold the line and we'll be right with you, take your order for your pizza. And this poor girl, they had to read the fucking copy that they had provided. And please try our new artisan pizza featuring. Anyway, you were saying? What were you saying?
What I was saying is, of course, I grew up on the J-Boys, or whatever the hell Jim was saying before. Of course, is the title of the new book coming to Cornette's Collectibles, all about Jim's fast food journeys. But there's so many other wonderful things there right now.
I could belt out the J-Boys when I was in my formative years. I was a pudgy young man, but I'll tell you what's fat. What's fat are the values and the quality and the just exceptionalism of the merchandise that you can get all day long and twice on Sunday at Cornette's Collectibles via JimCornette.com. And right now, and I'll have you know, if anybody wants any of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling tickets, there is like 8 pair left, I think. Those may be gone. And we're getting pretty low on the Inside the Ropes magazine as well. But the T-shirts and the action figures and the Heroes and Friends books and the various and sundry other items which would bring a tear to a glass eye are available now at JimCornette.com. Just click on it and just, again, bask in the plethora, the obesity of the values that you get. These are fatter values. They're fat. It's what they are. Fat values than anywhere else.
You have anything ringside in Knoxville?
No.
You got some Earth, Wind, and Fire coming to Cincinnati?
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about. The tickets are not good now. They were good then. They're souvenirs now. You can't get into any shows with them, as there are no Smoky Mountain shows that are going to, at least by me, that are going to be run anytime in the future. No, they're the souvenir tickets that we put on sale, I think, back for some time ago, and because it was the roll, the printers misspelled Smoky. They put an E, it's SMOKEY, Smoky Mountain, and it's not, as anybody who's been to the park can testify. So we had to use these tickets for our first event, and then we got them to because we didn't get them in time to notice. And then by the time we ran another show, we had more fucking tickets. So that's why these were still, there was a roll of several hundred of them, but they are now almost gone. A fine, fine piece of merchandise, just a knick-knack, a little soupçon of a collectible for those who fondly remember SMW. Like all the All Japan Wrestling nerds on Twitter, or at least one of them. He's doing a great job tweeting out some of the clips from the first year of Smoky Mountain TV.
Once again, great deals abound at JimCornette.com, Cornette's Collectibles. Well, of course, Jim, we have a lot to get through here today. We're going to talk about Raw. There were several things on there, but why don't we start with where we ended last time and pick up our list of the top wrestlers in their 20s in 1994, specifically our attempt to put together a top 20, which has been a lot harder than it was in 1984, probably a lot harder than it may have been just a few years later, but it's an interesting period of time here.
I'm picking up that list now. It's a weightier list. There were more people on it than in 1984, but as we said, we were going through it and I think it would have been the same in 1974 as 1984. Guys in their 20s were already in main event positions, already drawing money, already kind of established in various places all over the country. And in 1994, there were a bunch more guys in the same age group, but most of them were just guys that were on the card somewhere because the territories were gone. There was no place else to work but the big companies or the indies, and nobody was really drawing any money, including Vince, when you take into account his standards of the time. Nobody was drawing any money.
Well, Jim, here's our list so far. Owen Hart, 29. Shawn Michaels, 29. Undertaker, 29. Yokozuna, 28. Dustin Rhodes, 25. Lord Steven Regal, 28. Cactus Jack, 29. Kenta Kobashi, 27. And the Great Sasuke, 25. Before we get to our question marks, we have a couple issues we have to go over here and rectify. There's a couple of names that are on the list as candidates for the top 20 in their 30s, which eventually we'll get to. But we heard from several listeners who believe that they should be included on this list. So we should discuss this.
Okay.
Jushin Liger turned 30 November 10th. So he was 29 the entire year until November. And maybe more egregious, Steve Austin, stunning Steve Austin.
Oh, good Lord.
Turned 30 December 18th, the very end of the year.
Okay, so then we have to then automatically put Austin on that list, right?
Well, that's the question. Based on the way we've done it, it's typically if you turn, whatever age you turn that year, you kind of go there. But I think if you turn 30 with less than 2 weeks left in the year.
Right, yeah.
So I think so.
Yeah, I think Austin should go there. And Liger, same.
Liger
He was.
Liger had a great year. Can't be denied.
Been very influential in the game. So at least this. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we got 11 people at it. But boy, from here it gets a little tough to just uphold the standard that we tried to uphold with the previous, years listings that we did.
It's also kind of interesting, in the past we've seen with different age groups, there's a certain age. I think with wrestlers in their 40s, there was a lot of guys that were 43. 29, Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Cactus Jack, Steve Austin, Jushin Liger. All 29 years old. Obviously, all guys who had been in the business for a while. And it's just everyone's kind of breaking through at this point.
And you know what? Hold on here a second. Let's the only two people, yes, I believe, let me see. No, I tell you, 3 people. There were 3 people, check me on this, that were in the business in 1984 on this list. Owen, Shawn, and Regal.
No, I don't think Owen was in the business yet.
Did Owen not start? Owen didn't start till 86.
86.
Okay, so Shawn and Regal were the only 2 that were even in the business 10 years previously. Whereas you had, again, on the 84 list, you had guys like Gordy that already had Nevertheless. But he already been in business like 10 years or whatever.
Well, Jim, now going to the question mark list. I'll start by doing what I did at the very beginning. I'm going to advocate for the 1, 2, 3 kid, Sean Waltman. He was typically in, if not the best match on a WWE house show, one of the best matches, despite not having a physique that wrestling fans, WWE fans, had been trained to only accept. He got over. Obviously, he had some help. Razor Ramon getting him over worked. It took, despite the booking not always holding up. 1994, again, he's having great matches, has tag team matches, has singles matches, is a unique worker. You know, no one looked like him, no one worked like him on a national stage. So I personally think I would, but let's get your thoughts.
Well, and you know what I would do? I would say yes, because he was the first guy that we came to on this list of what looked like 100 fucking names. And I said, well, even though he was, that was a good year for him, certainly there's going to be these, multiple Hall of Famers and blah, blah, blah. And now that we've gone through the whole list and we go back, yes, absolutely, without question, we need to put him down because it didn't go up from him. It went down from him.
All right, so we're going to put the 1, 2, 3 kid on the list. I'm going to skip around a little bit. Jeff Jarrett, 27 years old in 1994. He would come to the WWF full-time, I believe, the end of 93, so it's his first full year there. Lower mid-card to mid-card at that time. He would really get the big push going into 95, get the Intercontinental title, and everything was kind of clicking with him and the roadie when all of a sudden everything was gone, but that's a year later. I think Jeff Jarrett probably has a pretty strong argument for being one of the top guys in their 20s in the business, despite, everyone hears me talk about what I think about the way he was pushed and the way he was used and the way he booked himself, but you can't take away the talent, and we didn't know
And on this list.
Yeah.
And that's the same, I'll make the same statement. It was early on. I didn't want to seem biased, but after the list that we went through and with the names we've compiled, Jeff belongs on it.
All right, so Jeff Jarrett, I think we are unanimous on that. Jeff Jarrett, 27. Chris Benoit, 27 years old. This is a complicated one, of course, because the rightful feelings people had towards him, but we're trying to look at this in a vacuum to what the list would have been in 1994, not taking into account the future.
Well, yeah, and I have to say this every time we mention his name because somebody hasn't heard the previous clip, but yes, the body of work that the guy did before he lost his mind and blah, 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 it still exists. And nobody agrees with what he did, but you can't just act like it didn't ever happen. And especially a guy with that much talent on this list, he would, okay, if we're considering him, then he would definitely belong on this list. And if we're not going to consider him, then he's not on the list. But there's no way that he would be a question mark at this point.
I can't stand Chris Benoit. I don't think he should be put into any wrestling Hall of Fame, but I think if we are doing this and trying to do it accurately, he has to be on the list. He was phenomenal in 1994.
And the puppies are agreeing.
All right,
they're over there now.
Chris Benoit is now number 14 on the list. Jim, I'm going to advocate for two guys that we looked at individually, but using the rule that we used in the past, I think for the Road Warriors and maybe one or two other teams, Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero. Eddie 27, Art Barr 28. Los Gringos Locos. 94 was their year. 94 is the year they have that big tag match, the hair versus hair match when Worlds Collide in November. But they were having great matches in AAA at a point in time where AAA had a lot of eyes on it in the States. And it was not kind of the embarrassing... It wasn't as embarrassing as it would become under Antonio Pena a few years later.
Right.
So,
well, and I will agree with you here again, because they were a great team at the time, the best heel team in the ring, in the business. And even though I was in Smoky Mountain, obviously, I was keeping up with what they were doing because it was going on. It was a fucking hot deal. And somebody's going to say, well, why wouldn't Eddie Guerrero just be on the list himself because he's a Hall of Famer? Because at that point in time, he actually wasn't. He was the youngest Guerrero brother, and he was just breaking out. So if we're going by the time frame and what people were doing, yes, for that year, Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero were one of the hottest teams in the business, and I agree with you. We should do the Road Warrior rule.
All right, well, that makes 15. So we have 5 more spots to fill on the list. Jim, you can give me your thoughts. I personally, unless you have a compelling argument, would rule out Fatu, 29.
Yeah, it wasn't going on anywhere near that point in time for Fatu.
I'm going to rule out Mikey Whipwreck, 21, although I think, surprisingly, maybe to some, he deserves consideration in 95 and probably 96, but definitely 95. But I'm going to say, unless you disagree, Mikey Whipwreck being ruled out here from the question mark list.
I think Mikey has been shipwrecked.
Too Cold Scorpio, 29. That's a very interesting one. He was such a human highlight reel in an era before everyone did everything, and he wasn't a small cruiserweight. He was a bigger guy. I mean, not like a Hulk Hogan, but you know what I mean.
Well, yeah. No, he was, yes. And especially, he wasn't tall, but he was stocky. He had a big upper body, so he not only had the strength to move guys around, but then he had the agility to do that stuff, and it looked extra special.
What are your thoughts? Too Cold Scorpio. He would leave WCW. He would work Indies. He would work ECW. Had matches with Sabu. I believe he was he in the finals with Shane Douglas in their version of the NWA tournament? I think he may have been.
He may have been, but yes, I think Scorpio, again, on this list, I think he fits.
Notwithstanding his future, unless you have a compelling argument, I personally would not put Booker T on the list here at this point, but a few years later, if we were doing the 30s, he would certainly be on the list.
Right. And if we make it that long, if we make it to that number of years, we'll do that, and he'll be on that list.
All right, Jim, with 4 more spots, it's really tightening up here, and
ooh,
you were a little wish-washy on it, and I understand why, because you didn't want the perception to be there, but I think it's fair to say that Chris Candido is a credible candidate for this list, and I think if we're talking people in their 20s who worked a full schedule, never dogged it, their matches were often the highlight of the card they were on, and Smoky Mountain, he learned how to be more of a performer than just a wrestler. 94, I saw him live in 94. He was great.
Yeah.
He would win the NWA World title in 1994 in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, November 19th, 1994. Chris Candido, let's talk about it.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm trying to find him on this list that I have of these names that we're going through. And it's not even on my list. So yes, he has to. Didn't you bring that up that, oh, wait, Candido, when we did this before?
Well, we put him on the question mark list, but I thought he was certainly worthy of it. And I
know I'm trying to find his name on the question mark list, unless I'm fucking blind. But nevertheless, yes, put him on the list.
All right, that's 17.
Because and here's the thing: there was nobody that age with that level of experience in the business that had anywhere near the grasp, not only of how to do the moves, again, as we've mentioned, but also the business and how to work, and his promos coming along and the whole 9 yards. He was way ahead of anybody else that I knew of in the business.
All right, Jim. Brian Christopher, 22. I think I said last time I thought he was valid. He was doing great promos. His work was really good. A Memphis territory that had just lost Jeff Jarrett, that Jerry Lawler was doing a lot of things in other places.
Yeah.
He was really good, and we didn't know anything about how things would work out in the future, and a lot of us who were watching Memphis tapes had high hopes for the future because of Brian Christopher.
And again, when we went through this, I found it, geez, there's another page. When we went through all these fucking names, there's so many names, I was hesitant to say, well, Brian Christopher, but he, was on a smaller level, but at the same time, there was very few other bigger levels at that point with what had happened to the business. So I think some of these guys, like the Candidos and the Brian Christophers, it's valid because at least they were in a position somewhere where they were expected to draw money, and sometimes for the standards of the place they were in at the time, did better than most. I think that's what we have to look at because the business as a whole was in such anemic shape in 1994.
All right, so we have 18 now. Shinya Hashimoto, New Japan. We've had a couple other Japanese wrestlers make the list. Kenta Kobashi from All Japan, Great Sasuke from Michinoku Pro, although he wrestled for New Japan and other promotions. Jushin Liger from New Japan. Shinya Hashimoto was one of the top heavyweight stars in New Japan. 1994 is kind of in the middle of his run. What are your thoughts on Hashimoto?
Well, and that's when we talked about this earlier. I had deferred to you, who is more of an expert on some of these guys, and you're the one who suggested, well, maybe we put a question mark on Shinya Hashimoto. So now, much as my opinion about, say, Bar Guerrero or Candido Christopher, how do you feel now about old Shinya?
I say we put him on the list. He won the IWGP title back that year, had a big year. He was, again, top of the card for New Japan. Unfortunately, he would meet an early end, but at that time we didn't know any of that, and not that that would matter, but I think Shinya Hashimoto's on the list.
But yeah, no. Hey, this guy's going to suffer a horrible accident 2 years from now, so fuck him.
Now that I think about it, everyone's invalidated by that argument. This man will die, so he's off the list.
Right. Hey, I'd vote for him for the Hall of Fame, but fuck, he's going to die soon.
All right, so we have 19 names on the list, and I think we're going to kind of make it easy here because the last 2 names on the question mark list were Rey Mysterio, but that is someone who turned 20 at the end of the year. Let me look up if I can get his age here. Rey Mysterio, December 11th is his birthday. December 11th, 74.
So by the power vested in us by the shit we made up,
he can't be on the
He
list.
should really be considered a teenager and put in the teenage class, of which he would be one of the only members of the fucking class, except for
Alex Wright.
Obscure indie, Alex Wright and obscure indie guys.
Well, Jim, that leaves one final name. Again, a tag team. JC Ice Baby and Wolfie D. PG-13, 21 and 23 years old, respectfully.
Do you know how bad some segment of the wrestling fan population is going to shit themselves if we put in PG-13 and just slough off Rey Mysterio on a technicality? Can't they be co-members, or is Ray's on a list, but he's not even on this list because he's not old enough yet. He can't ride the ride yet. He's on his own special list.
If Ray makes the list, Steve Austin and Jushin Liger can't. That's the way it works.
Oh, well then I'm sure he'd sacrifice himself then for the sake of 2 others to live. So in that case, let's put PG-13 on this. Wolfie and fucking Jamie, good Lord.
All right.
Because they actually, if you go up and down the list, they were probably just the most fun to watch of anybody here at this point.
And again, this is a good reflection, this list, of what was happening, not just in WWE, but WCW, Smoky Mountain, USWA, and internationally. Final list: Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Yokozuna, Dustin Rhodes, Lord Steven Regal, Cactus Jack, Kenta Kobashi, Great Sasuke, Steve Austin, Stunning Steve Austin, I should say, Jushin Thunder Liger, the 1-2-3 Kid, Jeff Jarrett, Too Cold Scorpio, Chris Benoit / Wild Pegasus, Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr, Los Gringos Locos as a team, Chris Candido, Brian Christopher, Shinya Hashimoto, and finally PG-13 as a team. Our final list, Jim.
And that's what the people were waiting for, our final list.
Well, there it is, and it took a while to get here. We will begin next time our look at the top 20 wrestlers in their 30s in 1994. You may hear some Buddy Rich going on the other side.
Well, I'm just stacking these papers here. Boy, holy Jesus H. Christ, there are more in their 30s. I didn't know there were this many wrestlers in the business. And still nobody was drawing any money. Holy crap. Wait till we get to this list.
Well, Jim, that will be next time, but this was our final list, the top 20 wrestlers in their 20s in 1994. It's too bad that we didn't have an opportunity to let the listeners pick in advance who they thought the list would be and potentially win prizes, but although not able to do that with this opportunity, there are lots and lots of sporting events taking place that you can attempt to win some prizes by making some picks on. I can't be more obvious. Here's Jim Cornette.
Well, you could be more obvious, but I think, we have the idea, Brian. And if you like to have an idea, folks, on who you'd like to pick to do things in sports, well, don't just do it on the front porch to yourself and your dog or maybe your next door neighbor. Do it where it counts and go to Prize Picks and do it. Because after a Prize Picks, did you hear now they're an official daily fantasy partner of the NBA? That means all those NBA players get to have a fantasy every day. And Prize Picks tells you what it is. I think it's on some kind of line with a really breathy voiced woman. Nevertheless, it's in the right booth with the red leather. Folks, but once again, it's a scorching sports summer, but you can make all your picks on Prize Picks, whether it's basketball, baseball, women's sporting events of all kinds, football preseason games, dogs fighting in the background. The major golf tournaments are coming up. Buddy is turning into a werewolf. There's no better place for all your picks than Prize Picks. It's the America's #1 sports pick app. Ladies and gentlemen, for all you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats. Submit your lineup. You can follow along with the progress right there in their app. If you apply yourself, then you can win. Then you watch the games and you see what happens and things happen and you win. If you have a fantasy every day, then you wink, wink, nod, nod. You know what I'm talking about, folks. Whether you do it in the bathroom or whether you do it in the shower, you have the daily fantasy every day. And it ought to be with Prize Picks because they'll give you more bang for your buck.
Listen, this is very misleading, Jim. I think we need to...
Well, I'm just saying the daily fantasies are things that we all need to keep ourselves in an even keel. And sports can come into it. You can often fantasize about the sporting people. Folks, right now would be a good time to download the Prize Picks app right now and use the code JCE because here's what's going to happen. You're going to get $150 in lineups instantly if you win your first $5 lineup. Let me tell you that one more time. You're going to get $150 in lineups instantly if you win your first $5 lineup. That baby, you just go for it, baby, and the fucking money could fall from the sky. As a matter of fact, often just to fuck with people, Prize Picks will have some guy come to your backyard with a ladder, climb up on the roof.
They don't fuck with people.
And if you win, they'll throw fake money down in front of your window so you think it's raining money.
This is not how Prize Picks conduct themselves. That's guaranteed.
If you get it, well, they do a neighborhood check first. In certain neighborhoods, they don't want to do that. They're afraid somebody it's a good shot, will pick the guy off the roof and take his fake money. But folks, once again, download the app today and use the code JCE to get that $150 in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup because Prize Picks is America's #1 sports pick app. And all the people who pick sports should do the picking with Prize Picks because they're my pick and they ought to be the pick that you pick too. Prize Picks.
That's right. One more time, Jim, the promo code and what the listeners can do.
They can go fuck themselves.
No, they can't. They have a great deal here that you're excited to tell them about.
No, I thought you were mad at them.
No.
You said tell them what they can do.
Jim, tell the listeners how they can get access to this great deal.
Just download the Prize Picks app and use that code, which is JCE. Not go fuck yourself.
No, that's not the promo code that we're talking about. It's JCE. JCE from our good friends. Welcome back, our good friends at Prize Picks. Get ready for a big season of great sports action. Prize Picks!
Yes, they are. Don't tell me to just, hey, tell these people what they can do. I think you're mad at them.
All right, we shall return, ladies and gentlemen. Right after this short commercial timeout, we're going to go adjust our attitudes. All right, the pleasantness continues. This chair's making noise.
You're pressing your luck after that one, after I praised you somewhat on the opening.
Pressing my luck is this one. That's
that hurts.
Well, Jim, speaking of
nail in my taint.
Well, Jim, speaking of things that may hurt the wrestling fans' eyes, ears, or feelings, WWE held another Raw. They're continuing to run this show. They've been running it for a while now. But they were in Buffalo, in the classic sense, hot wrestling town before it died. But they're running Buffalo and big WWE Raw.
A lot of things were hot before they died. The problem here was they didn't have Elio DiPaolo on the card. So how do they expect to fucking get the show over? I don't know how they ever expect to get this show over. It'll never be over. Yeah, they continue to do it. The August 17th edition, we should say. And there was a couple of things, I jest and I kid. There were a couple of things actually worthwhile and a couple that left me scratching my head, if not my crotch or some other part of my body. I started to say JD Evans. JD McDonough wrestled Javon Evans. Had a nice match. They're both very athletic. We're big fans of Javon. We've said that. And JD's head is entertaining. And Javon won it with a big cutter off the top. Boy, howdy, does he get height with that thing. And boom, and JD took a great bump, 1, 2, 3. And that was great because Javon needs good wins and he's a fine young man. And then here comes the mystery to me is how the fuck they had all this time to think of something else to do with this fucking guy. And he's still, as I said this last week, he's still Big Cass. And he's gotten in the gym and the pharmacy. He's done that, but could he have spent anywhere near that amount of time thinking on any other goddamn name and presentation? And I'm sorry, I'm seeing him as Brian Lee with a better physique. And he just kicked the shit out of Javon, beat him up and walked off. And then Javon got on the microphone and said, "Is that all you got?" And the people popped. So he went back and Javon fired up and made a little comeback. And then Dominic, who was still at ringside because of JD, posted Javon. And then Cass got back up and beat Javon up some more and walked off. Nobody tried to have the referees, didn't have an issue with this. It went on for so long. Javon seems like a likable person. Does he have no friends in the locker room? Remember, Brian, when the heels only had as much time to get heat as it took the baby faces in the locker room to plausibly hear that that one of their friends was being assaulted and they all came running out to fucking help.
Yeah.
Because it was a code of the hills and the baby faces. The heels and it was a code of the hills.
Code of the hills.
A code of the hills of the heels and the baby faces. That whenever one of them was in trouble, the whole locker room came out. So that's the thing. Cass, same name, same style, same look, except for the muscles. no difference in the presentation. What is supposed to be interesting?
And again, it's not really, so far at least, inspired booking. It's almost like someone who didn't understand wrestling but has seen wrestling stuff trying to put something together, or AI, or it just doesn't feel like it's anything to make you care too much. I like Javon. Javon's great. Javon is great. Even when he was getting ready to do the dive, he was still selling his leg as he ran to the ropes, because you have to run back to the ropes, and he didn't not sell. I mean, he's really good. He
gets it mentally, which is more than half the battle right there before you even start thinking about the fact that he's a great athlete, and he's also now in a place where they're going to fucking direct him, hopefully properly. But and Cass is trying. He's trying to be a big menacing heel, but that's what it looks like he's doing. He's trying to be a big menacing heel. There needs to be, there's another image for him out there somewhere. My gimmick will come.
You know what WWE needs? Managers. I feel like so many of these things would just be made more reasonable if there were, let's say, 2 different heel managers who had a stable, and not every heel is in their stable, and they just do dastardly things, and there are wrestlers they don't like, so whoever comes in attacks them, and you're instantly aligned with this person that it's been established their reasons for hating someone. You know what I mean? Just other than, this person's back, and here they are, and they're doing this, and he's doing this again. And I don't know. It just seems like it doesn't get anywhere.
But, I was about to say, that's a deep subject, as Mama Cornette used to say. With the exception of Paul, who has the cachet in the industry to do his shit and to weed through some of the dreck that would probably be given to him if he was just another salaried employee that was being handed material. They had, what was that fucking guy's name they had as an underneath manager for a while? It was comedy. There's nobody who is that you would have to gain a manager credibility. He has to manage top guys and be instrumental in their success, cheating at the right moment to help them win, or just cutting the promos, being part of the package that gets heat that the people want to see the babyface get to him. Then when the manager gets over, then a la Bobby Heenan, it can become the Bobby Heenan family, where different top guys come in and out as the territory changes. And occasionally you can get away with putting a middle card guy you want to give a real fresh coat of paint to in that group, and he gets the rub from the other people that the fans know are established main event level stars. That's the way that works. So are they going to start now developing good managers who would actually know how to do this shit over the next 2 to 3 years, so that then the managers can start developing the fucking charismaless clowns that they find that are 7 feet tall? It's a process.
And the 2 top managers in each company, Heyman and Callis, they don't work ringside. I mean, they stand there every now and then. Callis literally goes to commentary until he has to hand someone a screwdriver. And Heyman doesn't really move much.
I wish he'd switch to a Bloody Mary. Well, we understand why Paul can't move much, because there's still, even with modern building technology and civic codes, there's still a weight limit on some of these arena floors. But in Callis, I don't even consider. What are you laughing about? No, it's for people's safety.
Yeah, of course.
Callis, I don't consider a manager, because he's just assing off with it. Tongue is always in cheek. He doesn't dress funny to get heat because the people believe he really dresses that way. He does it on purpose. He says things it's all on purpose, and with a wink and a smile and too much drama in the voice. So no, I'm not even considering that.
All right, Jim. Well, there was more Raw.
Well, speaking of Paul and those reinforced arena floors, Braun Breaker entered the arena to do an in-ring promo. And basically his bone of contention is now he is pissed off because they were saying that Braun's the future of the WWE, the next big thing, but now they're saying it about Oba. And so he got in the ring. He said, "You want to be the future? Well, come out here and take it from me right now." And instead, out came Paul Heyman. And he started whimpering.
Those were the wheezing sounds he made walking down to the ring.
Those are the wheezing sounds he made walking down to the ring. But Paul says that he's a wise man and he knows wise shit. And he asked the question, who is the future of the WWE? And the fans start chanting, Oba, Oba. And then Braun asked Paul, well, who do you think it is? And before Paul can answer, Oba's music hits. And I'm like, geez, nobody ever gets to fucking finish. It's a rude bunch of people constantly interrupting. So Oba does the entrance, and of course, everything comes to a halt for 2 minutes or so for him to do that. And he gets in the ring, gets the big chance. And Oba says he's the future of the WWE, and everybody knows it. And the people know it, and yet blah, blah, blah. And Brock Lesnar knows it. So I'll do it any day, any time. And then Braun said, how about right here, right now? And of course, that's
perfect. That was perfect. That was perfect. It was right away. There was no delay. It was just boom.
Yeah. And the people popped, and yes. And then Paul says, whoa. If you do that, Braun Breaker, you have cut ties with me. You have lost me forever. What? And then Paul goes, and it was perfect. And it's actually got, again, this is another one of those things where if you examine what Paul said, every word of it is true and legitimate. But because he's a heel and he's taken something away from the fans that they wanted, it comes off and he's a prick and he's a capitalist profiteering, promoting bastard. But he did the thing. He said, this is a publicly traded company. We answer to the stockholders. If we've got two big main event stars in the ring, we don't give a big match away. We promote it. I swear to God, they're talking to Tony Khan and all these indie clowns. Hey, we're not going to do this now. I have already talked to Adam Pearce, and I've already set this match up for Sunday night's main event. September the 6th in Atlanta, Georgia. Braun, in your hometown, you got the home field advantage. Oba versus Braun to find out who the future of the WWE is. And then Paul leaves, and Braun's standing there confused, like, what the fuck? And as Paul passes him, he says, that's good business. See, he's trying to teach the young grasshopper how to snatch the pebbles from the hands of the fucking minions.
Because of Paul's expertise in good business.
Well, he's a business expert. But in actuality, as I said, this is a goddamn, it's a classic wrestling 101 in all these. Occasionally you do a surprise match for an angle, right? If it's an angle that leads to something bigger. But just all the surprises, which he used to do. Remember at ECW? Yeah. You promote
He's the one who
shit.
Started turning out the lights. That shit that's still around. Just turn out the lights and there'll be a surprise.
Just turn out the lights.
That makes no sense.
And the people thought it's because he didn't pay the electric bill. But anyway, but this is, in a heelish way, he gave the kids some knowledge there. So that has been signed, as they say, for the big Sunday night's main event because they couldn't get Saturday, I guess.
All right, puppy love in the air. I hear what you're saying, and Heyman's so good at delivering it. I don't know. There was something like, why is he giving this Vince McMahon kind of this? We don't give this away. are a publicly traded company. We do what's best for business.
Well, see, what it's going to be is it's going to be part of, he's playing hard to get with Braun, but in his mind, they're always going to get back together. And he's trying to teach young Braun not to be impetuous and to always recognize his value and all the things that you're going to be hearing Heyman tell him as they re-gear this whole thing up to push Braun, blah, blah, blah. But this is part of, and that is probably how they're going to get away with Oba beating Braun, is because it's part of the learning process that Heyman's trying to put him through to make him a more effective fucking pawn for Paul.
At the same time, Paul's being very respectful of Oba Femi because of Brock Lesnar putting him over. But wouldn't it be great when they have that match on Sunday night's main event? If like Brock and Oba are brawling near ringside, and all of a sudden, a tennis racket hits Oba.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And Braun says, "Fuck you, Paul. Look who I've got." Come on, wouldn't that be great?
No, it will. Where is Sunday night's main event? Where is that at?
Louisville, Kentucky, it'll be. We'll move
no,
it to
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta.
That's out of the county. I'm not allowed to travel out of the county now. I've got an ankle monitor. But no, but I think this will be part of a process that they're going to tell a story, and you could probably tell that the dogs are excited about it, as well as Paul has his fingerprints on it, that he's trying to I would say, groom young Braun Breaker, but that word is taken on a negative connotation these days. But he's trying to learn the boy how to be a big money ball player in this big money industry, that type of thing. And you can hear Paul spouting that shit off all day long and getting Braun fired up to do what the fuck he needs to do.
That's certainly a big match. I'm looking forward to see that.
I don't think.
What are they going to do?
I think that's a way that they can get out of beating Braun, but I don't see a way that they can get out of beating Oba right now. So I think that's going to be something to do with it.
Do you think right now a loss would hurt Oba? He lost to Brock Lesnar in match 2, obviously, but would a loss hurt him?
But no, well, I mean, it's always who to and in what context. But right now, there's no reason to do it because he lost the second one to set up the third one, as we now know, and as we suspectified when it happened. But right now, there's no need. He's over as this phenom. So let's feed him a couple of people and make it a little stronger before there is some type of serious bump in the road or challenge, or not even a defeat, but a physical beating or assault or whatever that puts him down. It's not a goddamn, sprint here. Let's just not fuck with him right now.
Well, another big match to look forward to. What else did you see on Raw? Did you watch any of the matches on Raw, Jim?
Well, yeah, and Rey Mysterio and Chad Gable for the Intercontinental title. And I'm going to be interested to see what Uncle Dave has to say. All these matches on AEW television that they have, it's ambiguous whether people are baby faces or heels, and it's for belts, and they have great quote unquote TV matches where they do a lot of moves and everything. And he gives, even though they fucking commit botches so bad that the fans in the arena are laughing at them, whether it's being stabbed in the head with screwdrivers on the second take or whatever the fuck goes on where they squirm into the position to be defeated. Here were two guys that had a good, serious, professional wrestling match. It was for the Intercontinental title, and it's not a blood feud with Rey and Gable. But if you were looking for great TV matches with no big angle that don't insult the business, this would be one. And they got the people into it because they're just, Rey's, on the twilight of his career, but he can still go. And he's such a professional. He's never in a wrong place. And Gable all around in the ring is tremendous. And they got the fucking people going. And they pulled out the big stuff at the end. Gable hit the angle slam off the top and got a 2 count. And then they did a deal where Gable blocked the 619 into the ankle lock, but then Ray came out of it and hit one and got a roar and then hit another one and got a roar. And then Ray went for the splash off the top, but Gable raised his knees and got the ankle lock. And in the process of Ray trying to fight out, Gable rolled him up 1, 2, 3. There was no particular heel in this. People like Gable now, and obviously people love Ray. But they had a good wrestling match, and Ray, as a veteran, put this guy over as being on his level without it being redundant or preposterous or an epic in length. Just having a good match with a really good finish, and then Ray puts the belt around Gable's waist and makes a nice moment there. If they're going to do something like that, that's for the kind of people who ought to do that kind of thing. These are the kind of people that ought to be doing it.
That was a super hot match. The fans got so into it. It was deflating to them for Gable to win, and Gable's been a babyface. So that was the only weird thing. They got so into the idea of Rey Mysterio winning that it was a real letdown when he didn't win. But it was a great match, and the ending was the end sequence, the last few minutes, let's say.
Really, because see, again, Ray in the position of, he's always, because that's the way he builds his matches, in the position of the underdog fighting to overcome. So you naturally get with him. That's what got him over all that time. But they like Gable, but they don't have any reason to be in love with him because it was just until recently he's been a goofy masked guy and a blah, blah, blah. So it's part of the process. But they at least showed, okay, he can beat a main event level guy without fucking around. So it without the, the goofy sidekicks or whatever. So that's a positive step in his development to me.
All right, good match. It's nice when you get a good match on WWE TV. But that wasn't the main event. There was still more, and they've been building up, assuming we're going where I think we're going. They've been building up some family drama. The bloodline continues. The drama continues. Let's talk about the main event here.
Well, here's the thing. If they could just take a camera to a trailer park if they want family drama and have some real action, because this was so long and so milked. Things happen, but it takes forever. I will explain. An SUV pulled up and Jacob is standing there like the fucking doorman at the Waldorf. And he opens the door and Roman gets out and Jacob's got to follow him. And they're following Roman walking out and doing the entrance. And it takes they go to a break. And when they come back, they're in the ring, but they're still milking and the singing and the fucking carrying on. And it was finally, it was at 6.5 minutes after Roman started walking to the ring from the back, and that includes the break. He finally fucking speaks. And then it's basically, I'm here to collect a receipt. Bring me Solo. And then the Usos music plays. And the Usos come bouncing out with Solo. And they take another 2 full minutes to just come to the ring while they're standing there. And then once they get in the ring, there's Solo standing there, and Roman gives him the shit-sniffing look for a full 45 seconds where nobody says anything. They're trying to be so dramatic. And Roman is boy, he's going for, if they gave Oscars or Emmys or Tonys or Razzies or whatever the fuck for wrestling, the method acting, the Stanislavski method, but goddamn, it takes forever. And he said, the sight of you, Solo, pisses me off. And then he not only gave some history between him and Solo, they pitched to the VTR of their tribal conflict match and all the strife since then, that with Solo finally telling him to tell Roman Reigns to kiss my ass. And then they come back to the ring and Solo still stand there and Roman makes fun of his watch and pulls his glasses off and stomps him and says, "Why aren't you begging me down on your hands and knees right now?" And I'm thinking, to do what for who, where? Who of these people are we supposed to like? Why? What are we pulling for here? And then Jacob, pretty much out of nowhere, just super kicked Solo and Tongan death gripped him. And after he gripped him for a while, Roman said, "Enough," and Jacob stopped. And then they left Solo selling while Roman went and got decorative ulafalas to present the Usos and say, "You just stay there a minute, Solo. We'll be back to you." Dude, what the fuck is going on? So he's down there choking and gasping. And Roman says the Usos are my captains. They're made men. They represent me. So he gave them black ulafalas. Maybe they really are Lolafalanas. And then while he's doing that, Jacob is in the back. But now Jacob's pissed off. And he's like shaking his head that they get the Ulafalanas. And Solo's still on the ground selling and choking. And then LA Knight's music plays. And out he comes. And the Usos now are back. Remember 5 years ago, Brian, when I said the bloodline thing, the only thing was the Usos were the tag team champions, but the single stars were just beat the fuck out of both of them? They're back to that. Because LA Knight just dumped them out and they stay out while Jacob glommed LA Knight from behind and started to beat him up, but Roman told Jacob stand back, so he Superman punched LA Knight. And then he stopped and he told Solo to beat up LA Knight while the Usos were holding LA. Now the Usos got to hold LA Knight, who's got to be fucking in a medically induced coma from one Superman punch, while the long berating by Roman of Solo takes place to fucking fuck him up, Solo, fuck him up, clap, clap. And finally, Solo screams at LA Knight, "I'm sorry." And then he spikes Roman Reigns. And because it's been like 20 minutes since we've seen any goddamn thing, the people went, "Yeah, Jesus Christ." And the Usos then had come back in, well, obviously, because they were holding fucking snavets, and they flip out, but nobody really does anything. And Jacob is not selling it at all. He's like, okay. And then Solo and LA Knight beat up the Usos, but LA Knight and Jacob faced off, but Roman was coming from behind with the Superman punch, but LA Knight hit the BFT on Roman while Jacob still doesn't fucking do anything about anything. And LA Knight and Solo fist bumped. And it took about 20 minutes for all that stuff to happen. What happened here, Brian? Can you explain it to me?
Well, the fans are really starting to like Solo. And he's formed some sort of union with LA Knight. And Roman Reigns was as slow and boring as ever. And
but the Usos are back in the same flunky spot they were. Now Solo is being featured, but Jacob is back there like what they're doing this all over again. They running it back. And then is one by one the Usos are going to break out, and then Jacob is going to get his voice from the Planet of the Apes and say no again, and they're going to do the whole thing over.
I don't know. Jacob's at the point now where he's doing Stephanie McMahon interviews talking about his past troubles. So, he's at that point in the WWE career. They just signed Zilla Fatu. Is that how you say his name? He's an NXT now?
I don't know. If they've gone from A to Z, they probably got none left.
Well, he's now in NXT. It's weird. Solo, this is the most enjoyable Solo's been in a sea of, again, long segments. And I'm sick of Roman Reigns' way of talking. Just the whole giving speeches. And I'm talking to you. Just fuck you. Go away.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm getting mad. Yeah, it was, I don't know what's going on. Where's Seth Rollins? I don't know what's going on this show.
Where is Seth Rollins?
I mean, because I like the idea of LA Knight being in the main event mix and getting a push. I don't know. You got to do something. This is just, whatever.
Well, that was Raw. We've let the gas out of that bag.
Well, of course, a lot more gas in the WWE bag to come. But Jim, after an awful segment like that at the end, you may want to just kick back and chill. You may want to just hang out with your good buddy Willie and not have to think about the bad creative any longer. Jim, I think you know what I'm talking about. Our friends at Willie's Remedy.
Well, that's right, because folks, now it's not Willie B. Hurt. It's not the legendary Willie B. Hurt from Continental Wrestling in the 80s. It's the ultra-legendary Willie Nelson from the music business in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, O's, 10s, and I think he's still singing in the shower, 20s. And Willie Nelson has created the social tonic infused with THC that will infuse you with a sense of calm euphoria. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as the world descends into flames and madness, as the skies are filled with drones dropping all sorts of bombs and doing all sorts of spying, as the social fabric of around the world just suddenly falls apart and is rendered into shreds, you can sit on the back porch with the few friends you might have left who don't have some type of, growth from the nuclear fallout. And you can enjoy a good, nice, big old swig of Willie's Remedy. Enjoy it as a shot or over ice, mixed into your favorite mocktail. Or if you really want to, you can take a syringe and just shoot it up your ass. Because one way or another, it's a delicious blend of...
One way or another, that's not recommended. We should only talk about ingestion through the recommended methods. And of course, that's having a nice drink, kicking back and relaxing with something that you'll enjoy the taste of, likely, and also that will do its job. Jim, I wasn't prepared, but you are, because Willie's.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you're going to use that syringe, the first thing you need to do is kick back. But folks, there's only 15 calories and 3 grams of sugar with all the fun and none of the regret because it doesn't have the alcohol. You're not going to get a hangover. You're not going to make bad decisions. You're not going to go out there and do things you're going to regret tomorrow. No, instead, just the uplifting, euphoric buzz with no negative side effects. And again, a delicious blend of passion fruit, lemon, and lime. Not the horrible, awful demon rum that you may come in contact with in some places, but once again, a nice social beverage that's a unique blend of THC, CBD, CBG, and L-theanine. For calm, clarity, euphoria, and relaxation, you can see now that I'm floating on a happy cloud. There's Bob Ross on the next happy cloud. And my God, Bob Ross on the next happy cloud is fornicating with a sheep.
All right.
Or is that another happy cloud?
Listen, I don't think that's
happy because
happy
Bob Ross is laying
you?
The pipe to it.
Listen.
Nevertheless.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're in the now or using expressions that haven't been on broadcast in many, many years, you can lay the pipe on a great deal for some Willie's Remedy. Jim, I'm yelling again. Why don't you take it from here?
Yes, Spire, just take it down a notch. Back to the calm and euphoria. It's the #1 THC-infused beverage in the United States with over 350,000 happy customers and 1 million plus bottles sold, and you can be one. Or more, though. You can be one of the customers. You can buy more than one bottle. Go to drinkwillies.com right now and use the code JCE. You're going to get 20% off your first order and free shipping on orders over $95. Or you can use the store locator at drinkwillies.com to find Willie's on shelves near you. Total Wine's got it. Your local ABC. You know what ABC stands for besides a TV network, Brian? Alcohol Beverage Control. Because they have the ABC stores down south, and I can't remember who it was, but one of the guys from up north drove around for fucking an hour in Tennessee trying to find a liquor store because they didn't know what the ABC store was. DrinkWillies.com, promo code JCE, 20% off your first order and free shipping on orders over $95, and syringe is not included.
Not included, nor needed, nor something advised to you, but all kidding aside, in the traditional sense, enjoy a nice drink of Willie's. DrinkWillies.com, code JCE, 20% off your first order.
The traditional, so you've got to consume it somehow through your mouth, or can you inhale it up your nostril like a snot take and kind of, you can still swallow it that way?
Again, let's just say no matter what is said any further, there's only one way that it is recommended to ingest this fine, fine substance. And I think common sense will tell you what it is. Once again, Willie's.
I understand if you've got red eyes, it makes good eye drops.
It's not, don't do that. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, good old-fashioned ingestion, the old-fashioned way, with the mouth. DrinkWillies.com, code JCE for 20% off. All right, Jim, it's time to get serious and move on here with the show.
Yes, moving on.
All right, let's get some questions here. This one was sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com. CornyDriveThru at gmail.com. This was sent in by a Jim, actually. How did Deborah come to the WWF? As a kid, I saw her on WCW TV with Steve McMichael and around the Four Horsemen. This was around the time that Jeff Jarrett was playing a horseman. Jeff comes back to the WWF and brings Deborah. My perception as a kid who didn't read the newsletters was Jeff Jarrett stole his wife. Obviously, that's not true. Jeff was happily married. But how did Jeff get Deborah into the WWF?
Well, first off, I don't think it's a correct statement that Jeff got Deborah into the WWF. I mean, it's not like he called up and said, "Oh, I'm coming. I can't come without Deborah McMichael," who you may have never seen before. I don't know how the talent acquisition of Deborah came about, but she was put with Jeff, possibly because they had done the stuff in the together in WCW, but it wasn't like they came as a package deal and had to be together or whatever. Am I saying this correctly?
I guess.
Are you understanding the words that are coming out of my mouth? They were signing talent from the other place on a, case by case basis. So they just ended up there.
But again, it's a weird signing just because it's someone who never had any connection to wrestling until her husband, who never had any connection to wrestling, got involved with WCW and Nitro. They started using her on the air with the Horsemen. Is that your side or my side that I hear? Is that the puppies?
No, that's the puppies.
I was about to yell at people.
No, it's my stomach. I'm hungry.
Then, my point is, and then the marriage dissolves somehow, and it's like always a weird, like, okay, she had nothing to do with wrestling. Now she's in the wrestling business, and now she's
well, no, she was in a television business. She was on TV. That's a lot of times you will find that the the people who suddenly come in and get used in a spot like that, they want to stay on TV, even though they've never done it before because they get used to doing it. But anyway, whether they put a word in for her or Jeff put a word in for her, or we've done this or whatever, but they weren't like signed as a package and they weren't linked romantically. They were put together as talents.
All right, Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com is sent by Kenny O'Sale, Cottontown, Tennessee. Where's Cottontown? Do you know that, Jim?
Well, that's really near Webb City. You know where Webb City is, don't you?
I do not know.
That's halfway up a spider's ass.
All right, let's get back to Kenny's questions here. That wasn't very nice. Hypothetically, had there been no screw job at the Survivor Series 1997 pay-per-view in Montreal, how much longer would Vince McMahon continue to be the play-by-play announcer? Especially since Stone Cold Steve Austin just stunned McMahon a month earlier. Was there talk of McMahon finally giving up the role at the end of 1997 before the screw job sped up the process to create Mr. McMahon?
No, in broad terms. Had there been conversation of Vince not doing as much commentary just because, now they had JR and they had Michael Cole to come along, Kevin Kelly was there then. It wouldn't have hurt a lot of people's feelings if Vince had done less commentary to concentrate on talent management because of so many fucking problem children on the roster. But there was no talk of him becoming Mr. McMahon, and wouldn't have ever been had he not come off badly in the screw job aftermath. And we've talked about, and I'm not going to go into length on this thing again, but for the first week or two or whatever time period it was, he thought he was going to come off as the good guy. And Brett, the time-honored tradition, he wouldn't have, no, fuck you. That's what led to him saying, well, I got to go with this, and getting a whiff of that it was going to work and being Mr. McMahon. He would have not placed himself in the heelish role. When he got stunnered by Austin, that was building Austin, that he would stunner the fucking head TV announcer. Not that it was quite yet going to be, Mr. McMahon, the evil boss. And for the people that knew that Vince was the boss, it was still for Austin. He stuttered the boss, whether it was the boss or the announcer. It wasn't like Vince was at that point already deciding he was going to represent everything that was evil in the world and be Austin's nemesis. It was just another way to get Austin over.
What do you remember, though, about earlier in the year where he started to get physical with Brett? There's the incident you see in clips at ringside where he's on commentary and he pulls Brett's shirt over him and, they're going back and forth. But then there's the time I remember in the ring where Brett finally vents his frustrations after a cage match and shoves Vince down. And, they had never, Ric Flair in 91, you have to go back a long, long time. The last time Vince was involved in anything physical on that show.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it started happening at the beginning or the middle of 1997. What do you remember about that? What was he intending to do more physically gradually?
Well, again, no, it developed. There wasn't an intention. The intention, especially with that one where he had Brett's shirt, he's pulling it over. He wanted to make it look like a shoot. Because that was the thing that worked about Brett and the Canadian point of view versus DX and the American point of view and blah, 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 was that it really was true to each entity's characters, as they say. They really should each feel that way. And it worked in both venues. They cheered the Hearts in Canada. They cheered the pricks in America. Some things never change. But to get that over as a shoot and that it was getting out of control and that the tempers were boiling over, yes, Vince agreed to get physical, but he wasn't about to if he was going to get physical, he wasn't going to let it look like anything other than a shoot. And also that's why if it had been if he hadn't been also the boss and had just been one of the other announcers, the announcer wouldn't have got that much fucking offense in on whatever Brett was doing. But it looked like a goddamn fairly legitimate struggle because everybody's was really pissed because that's what they wanted it to. But it wasn't, again, Vince wasn't thinking, oh, in 6 months, I'll put this in the ring or whatever. It was just, this is another way to get this, instead of getting Austin over, and now this is getting Brett's deal over. He didn't want to be the center of attention as a TV personality until Mr. McMahon came up.
And then he never stopped being the center of attention.
And then he wouldn't get out of the way for anything.
If everything had worked out with Bret, I'm not even talking about staying. If Bret Hart had said, sure, I'll drop it to Shawn. I'm just happy to be done with this. Let's just move on with our lives. It wasn't as simple as Jim Ross is here, I'm going to slot him in. Vince had already fired Jim Ross. Vince had already downgraded Jim Ross. Would Vince have just gone on as the lead, in your eyes, as someone who's involved with the creative at that time? Do you think Jim Ross would have gotten a chance to team up with Jerry Lawler, just those two, and do it? Or would Vince have always been on commentary?
I think until they could have made a case to the chairman, as JR always called him, that he was more valuable at guerrilla position and at dealing with the talent, and that he had to delegate. The company had gotten his company had gotten so big, he had to be instead of being tied down on a live broadcast for 2 hours on a headset, he had to be there where he could be consulted on the second. That type of approach, then Vince would have backed up and put JR in the lead slot, but I don't know if he would have ever given up completely. Maybe after syndication went away, then he just said, well, I just don't have time. But
it would have been easier on everyone else. If you worked with Vince, it was probably easier than having him in your headset yelling at you. Because he just...
Well, yes, it was. I've done commentary with Vince as, color and play-by-play, and it was a breeze. But if he's back there in the back fucking yelling at you, but that was the only way they could ever get him off the commentary itself. But he would have never had a reason, I don't believe, to embrace the fact that he could be, just by being a magnified version of himself, one of the best heels ever in the business. I don't think he would have. It was always the rule, and they never did anything in the WWE, WWF, WWF, whatever, to violate this, that you keep the promotion and the announcers the baby faces, except for the heel color guy that's the shit disturber. And you can't look at any time where Vince ever tried to make the promotion heelish, and whenever anything ever might, that's why Jack Tunney came out of nowhere to make an announcement. Well, who's that fucking guy? They could be mad at him.
Jim, our next question, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com, was sent by Mike in the World Class Championship Wrestling territory. Watching some Mid-South tapes from the early 80s, Terry Taylor is a favorite of mine. Is there any particular reason he never got over and became a top guy? The Red Rooster gimmick he got in the WWF is still baffling to this day. Many thanks.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people say the Red Rooster gimmick killed Terry's career, and it didn't. It was just, unfortunately for Terry, the way the people remember him most at this point. Terry Taylor started in, what was it? Probably 1979-ish, 78, 79 in the business. And he was from the Carolinas. And I think he might have even had a flirtation with the little indie deal that Stan Lane and Rick McCord, a few of those other guys worked with. But basically, for the first 2 years, he was a good kind of bland middle card or underneath babyface in the Carolinas or a couple different places. I think he went to Georgia. And Jerry Jarrett, by the time he got him in 81, Terry had really worked on his body, and he had the blonde hair, and he was a good-looking guy. And that was exactly what Jarrett was looking for. He had the Fabs. He had, well, at that time, this was before the Fabs, but he had Steve Kern, Stan Lane, Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, all these good-looking guys, and the women are flocking to the buildings to see him. So he pushed Terry as not at the Lawler Dundee level, but he was a Southern heavyweight champion. He was used, he was featured. He had a lot of great matches because Terry was a good worker in the ring. His shit looked good, his physique was good, and he could sell. And as a babyface selling, he got sympathy. His promos were, you know, it was what it was, but back in those days, every babyface didn't need to be goddamn, you know, Terry Funk on the microphone. And from there, Watts saw him, and Watts did the same thing. He brought him in and put him in kind of like the Magnum TA position. The good-looking young babyface that the girls will like, that is the technical wrestler that can be the North American champion. Terry, I think 84, early 85, went 45 minutes in the Superdome with Flair, had a great fucking match. At the same time, Terry was not the box office attraction. In Memphis, that was Lawler. Terry wasn't the box office attraction in Mid-South. That was Duggan, a dog before that, you know, but it was more of a package program anyway. But Terry played a pretty good part in it. And the problem is, after the Mid-South run, when he went to work for Vince and became the Red Rooster, it was viewed in the business as a rib on Terry, that Terry's personal picadillos probably pissed somebody off. There was sometimes the way that he comes across and the way he speaks to people, and they fucking ribbed him with that. But Bruce Pritchard will swear he will die on San Juan Hill that was supposed to be serious, and Vince gave it to Terry because he saw how cocky Terry was and how he walked around like he was the cock of the walk. But it was the most cocked up gimmick in wrestling. And when Terry wasn't comfortable, he didn't get it over. It wasn't going to get over. When it didn't get over, Vince lost interest, and then boom. Well, by that point, when Terry went back to WCW, it was for that mid-card heel Alexandra York stable group with poor Mike Rotunda as Michael Wall Street.
Yeah, he was after Rotunda. Rotunda left, and then all of a sudden, it was the tailor-made man.
But it was still the same. He was in an underneath or a middle card heel group with Bless Terry Runnels. That was her first managing job.
And Richard Morton and
Thomas Rich. And by that point, he wasn't particularly being clamored for back in the WWF, and they'd presented him as all that he was, to them as a middle card guy in WCW. There was no place else to go. So he started working more in training and producing and behind the scenes. But that's what happened to his career. It was much more promising in 1984 and 85 than it turned out to end up in 88 and 89.
Well, let's break that down a little bit, because he's part of the winning roster of 1984 Mid-South. Stays until 85, and then he's one of the people who was on that 84 roster to end up working for Jim Crockett Promotions under Dusty Rhodes. That's, I guess, the first public story of him pissing off someone.
Yeah.
And it affecting the way he was going to be used. What's true?
Oh, that's right. I forgot, because he wasn't there long, was he?
No, he was getting a push. He was being used. And then, you could tell me if it's true or not. The story is that Dusty overheard him impersonating Dusty, I think on the plane or something. And that was it. Whatever he had to do, he was back working for Watts pretty quickly. And he became partially the booker, I think, for a while for Watts, or at least a little bit of time.
Yeah, and he and Eddie Gilbert got along well because they knew each other from Tennessee. So I think that was that time period where they were both there. But I don't know if that's, just the tip of the iceberg, hearing him do a Dusty impersonation on a plane, because a lot of people did that. But what was Dusty's disposition toward Terry when he heard that? That could have played a part in it. Who knows what? Because Terry would just have a talent for saying things to people or coming off in a way that rubbed them the wrong way.
But again, it's one thing rubbing, and I'm not justifying this, but if you're rubbing like your peers the wrong way as you try to rise up, it's one thing. When you're rubbing the bosses the wrong way everywhere you go,
that's another thing.
That's a whole nother thing. So with Watts selling the UWF, that's right around the time that Terry Taylor, for the first time, becomes a heel. And he was really good. And then after he went back to Crockett because of the purchase, I think who beat him at Starrcade? Was it Nikita to unify the TV titles?
I think so, yeah.
And then he was gone again, and he actually had, in a resurgent year for World Class, him and Chris Adams brought their feud from the UWF there. And again, he was a heel, and it was really good, and it was nice to have someone fresh in World Class. And then he goes to work for Vince, 88, end of 88, comes in as Terry Taylor. They make him the Red Rooster. They put him in a feud with a Brooklyn Brawler, who they just established. And Bobby Heenan is involved with him, and then Bobby Heenan's gone, and then he's just losing matches everywhere. And, the WCW run wasn't inspiring, but he wasn't too bad.
Didn't Bobby even fire him?
Bobby fired him, yeah. He sided with the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah.
Who never won a match ever over Terry Taylor, and he became the Red Rooster.
Well, and they had given Brawler that gimmick, Steve Lombardi, because everybody loved Lombardi, and he was the most loyal guy there. So they said, let's, he can work. Let's put a gimmick on him and use him some. And he's the one that ended Terry Taylor's major league career.
And then after the WCW run, he came back to the WWF at the end of 92. I got to see him at the Meadowlands, and I always tell this story. It was amazing in real time. He gets in the ring, and you know how he really did look cocky and kind of seemed cocky. And he gets in the ring and he just goes, I'm back. And as soon as he did that, you hear, he couldn't outrun that, especially in the Northeast. He couldn't outrun it. And then by the middle of 93, he's interviewing children on the pay-per-view.
That's right. They made him an interviewer. Good Lord.
But not even the wrestlers. He's interviewing the fans in the crowd. I mean, it was a puzzling career. If you look at Terry Taylor, 84, 85, you would think 94, 95, this guy's going to be one of the top guys or in the mix or well pushed somewhere.
If he'd ever picked up, which he did when he became a heel, the promos got better because it's a touch easier. But he would have been considered for at least NWA title matches in all the territories, if not contention for the belt, as that young, athletic, good-looking, fucking blonde-haired guy. But how the mighty fell.
Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Bob in San Diego. Dear Jim, I have some peeves regarding the way Hulk Hogan would cover people and kick out.
Well, what are these peeves?
When pinning someone, Hogan would often bounce right up off the guy he was pinning, right as the ref hit 3, or seemingly a split second before. When kicking out, Hulk would telegraph his kick out by placing his hands on his opponent's side during the entire cover, so you knew the entire time that Hulk was kicking out. The Ultimate Warrior also did this. Why did the Hulkster get up early on pins and telegraph his kickouts? What the hell was his problem? By the way, this is an excellently perceptive email. I hadn't thought about it this way, but this is great. Yeah.
And actually, I gotta think, especially on telegraphing the kickouts where he's got his hands on the guy, it's because he wanted to make sure that he kicked out in plenty of time and that there was no cause for alarm that anything was close. And he just is getting ready to do that and just either subliminally didn't realize or didn't care that anybody's seeing him. It's like when guys are laying there supposed to be knocked out, but there's a close-up camera shot of them and you can tell that they're looking at with full cognizance at what's going on or whatever. That's when you see that. That's what it looks like, but he's just making sure he's ready to kick the guy out. But as for the getting up, I think a lot of times a big star like that, he knows the guy's going to lay there for him, boom, and he wants to get up and get the hand in the air as quick as possible. And it's like a foregone conclusion. This guy's not even going to kick out. I'm not even wasting my time to hold him down all the way. He just wanted to jump up and get his hand in the air. It wasn't really any much more thought of it than that. It's like, this guy's toast, boom, I'm good. And it becomes a habit.
The kick out thing is interesting because it's one of the things that when people started groaning more and more, after the peak period, after let's say 91 especially, it's because even the hulking up, that he would telegraph it by doing that. That was the beginning of the hulking up. He would kick out like that and then he would start shaking his head on his knees. But you knew it was, as soon as you saw his hands go on the person, it's like, oh, he's getting ready to do this.
And then it becomes a pattern, from a personal tick to a pattern.
All right, Jim. Well, that is Hulk Hogan's pins and kickouts. And with that, we shall return right after this short commercial timeout.
Humming.
All right, we're back here. That's Jim's favorite of the tunes, of course. And Jim, we have some more show to go, and we have one of your favorite things right now. Guess the program.
I'm ready for this one. I'm feeling lucky today. Are you feeling lucky today, pal? I'm feeling lucky.
Well, we'll see how lucky you are. Of course, Guess the Program is where we go through programs in my collection, in my hand. And Jim, with slight clues and the card, will tell you the location, the date, and any other pertinent information he can conjure up.
Borderline mystical knowledge.
All right, Jim, we got a big card here. The opening bout, 30 minutes, one fall. Joe Scarpa, 230, San Francisco, versus Miguel Torres, 240.
San Francisco, by the way.
That's what it says here. I'm giving you the card as listed in the program.
All right.
Versus Miguel Torres, 240, Mexico City. The semi-final bout, 45 minutes, 2 out of 3 falls. The Great Shiroma, Japan, 215.
Wait, is that my Shiroma?
All right, the Great Shiroma. All right, will you get your head in the game here?
I'm sorry.
Versus Chief Little Eagle, which may have been another young girl that Doug Feiger was looking after, but let's get away from the knack.
Well, good girls don't.
Jim, the main event, this is out of control. The main event here, 1 hour time limit, 2 out of 3 falls. The Mighty Atlas, Chicago, Illinois, 238, versus Ali Pasha, Turkey, 242.
Oh, Christ on a cracker. Lot to go on here. Obviously, this is back in the old days when they had the 2 out of 3 fall matches and only 3 matches on the card. And everybody had to put some time in. Joe Scarpa obviously would later on become Chief J Strongbow, but Joe Scarpa was a name for quite some time, especially in Georgia, and, well, points all over the country as a Italian babyface before he became an Indian. And he's in the opening match here, so this is early in his career. Miguel Torres is not Miguel Perez. Again, my Shiroma, They had a Japanese guy doing a masked gimmick. Is this what?
He's not masked.
No?
It has a
He's
picture
not
of him in the
masked.
program. It says the Great Shiroma, toy bulldog son of the rising sun.
Huh. So we go with a territory that had illiterate copywriters for the program.
Yeah, come on now.
Chief Little League. I mean, is this a midget match? I mean, I don't know. The Mighty Atlas was Morris Shapiro, and he did a strongman gimmick, and hence the name, and he broke chains and bent things. And Ali Pasha, to the best of my recollection, was the standard journeyman heel. This has got to be... I mean, would this be one of the suburbs of Chicago in the, like the, Cicero Stadium or the Rainbow Arena or something in the early 50s? That's a spot show in Chicagoland. That's all I can come up with.
Well, I guess in some sort of sense, this is a suburb of Chicago. Jim, Tuesday, March 18th, 1958. Louisville, Kentucky. The Armory, 6th and Walnut.
Good Lord. So 1958 would have been after the Allen Athletic Club that had been the promoters. Haywood Allen was the promoter, and then his right-hand man, Francis McDonough, took over. They ran from the early 30s until 1957. McDonough died. Wee Willie Davis took over trying to promote Louisville with the Goldenrod Athletic Club, and died a horrible promotional death doing it. And apparently with cards like this, we know why. And he was getting talent, I guess, probably from Barnett and the Midwest office, but if you can call this card talent. And the shows went to an intermittent basis and then petered out.
Well, a little bit from the program here. Some of the best wrestlers, the Golden Road Athletic Club, promoted by Wee Will Davis. Not Willie. Will Davis.
But Golden Rod, not Golden Road.
Excuse me, Golden Rod. Golden Rod Athletic Club.
Because Wee Willie Davis was on the game show, the $64,000 Question in the 50s, and to look at him, you wouldn't know what the fuck he was an expert at, but he was an expert in horticulture and flowers, botany, or whatever the fuck. And he named his promotion after the goldenrod, the flower or the plant or whatever, which is another reason why that it fucking went belly up.
A trendsetter. I believe that the Japanese women wrestling companies have stolen a lot from Wee Willie Davis, but he hopes to bring to Louisville in the future. Gene Kineski, spelled Kenesky. Ernie Stevens. Ronnie Etchison.
Ernie Stevens? Who the fuck is Ernie Stevens?
And it's spelled E-R-N-I, so I don't know if that's another spelling error. World champion Dick Hutton. Tag team champions Corsica Brothers. A new masked wrestler. The Miller Brothers. Big Bill, Ed, and Dan, and many more. I like how they say they're going to bring a new masked wrestler, but, not like that you've heard of.
Yeah, just a new one. And we're not sure what his name is, but he's wearing a mask.
Injuries, the old bugaboo in athletic endeavor, took its toll in 1957 amongst professional wrestling's highest paid performers. Yet little publicity is given to them. Here are only a few. There are many more aches and bruises, but wrestlers are a hardy bunch. Waltz Kowalski, it's spelled W-L-A-D-S-K, so even the usual spelling is off here. That's Killer Kowalski, one of wrestling's big names, laid up 6 months with a neck injury. Ed Miller, member of the Magnificent Millers, off 5 months with a broken ankle. Johnny Valentine, off several weeks with an injured wrist. The injury list will continue next week.
Well, I'm glad he's hopeful. How many days have we gone without an injury?
And promoter Wee Willie Davis, and like you said before, box office Betty and Ray McDonough. So there we go. Jim, this next program here, the opening contest, Brian Blair versus Terry Allen.
Okay.
Cowboy Ron Bass versus King Kong Tonga. For a title I will not name, the champion, I believe, Jim Garvin versus Sweet Brown Sugar. We have a big $1,000 tug-of-war challenge. Big John Studd versus Cowboy Ron Bass. Dusty Rhodes, Barry Windham, and Hacksaw Reed versus Big John Studd, Angelo Mosca, and Snake Roberts. And finally, the main event, lights out special grudge match, Mike Graham versus Kevin Sullivan.
Ooh. Well, let's see. Obviously, we're in the fine sunshine state of Florida. Brian Blair is currently today a talking head on Dark Side of the Ring. Terry Allen was Magnum TA in what may very well have been his rookie year. I'm not sure here yet. Outlaw Ron Bass, Cowboy Ron Bass, obviously a star of the Southern Territories in the 80s, and he was a babyface in this situation, but he was a heel a lot of places. Which one was King Tonga? Was that Barbarian? Or was that which?
Or was that Haku?
I'll lose track.
Yeah.
Or was it Haku?
I am not certain here.
But no, Barb was Tonga John, wasn't he? Well, they changed their names a lot back in those days.
He was also Conga. Wasn't he Conga the Barbarian at one point?
Conga the Barbarian at first. So this may be Barb. King Kong Conga, whatever. Jimmy Garvin against Sweet Brown Sugar. Sweet Brown Sugar was Skip Young, who I guess they started the sweet trend with Rocky Johnson when he went to the Carolinas and put a mask on as Sweet Ebony Diamond. Didn't they? And then Skip Young, who was a heck of an athlete, but had a lazy eye and his face was not that cosmetically pleasing. They put a mask on him and called him Sweet Brown Sugar. And then when they turned Coco Ware heel in Memphis and they wanted to try to make everybody forget that he'd been Coco Ware, the underneath guy, for the past 3 years, they put a mask on him and started calling him Sweet Brown Sugar. Because Lawler was working in Florida at the time and saw the deal. John Studd and Ron Bass in a tug of war. Obviously, they were trying to get Studd over as the giant, and the big baby faces would try to win his money. Dusty, Barry, and Hacksaw Butch Reed, when he was still a baby face, against Studd, Mosca, and Jake. And then Mike Graham and Kevin Sullivan, and obviously Sullivan was the heel, and if they were having a grudge match, did that mean that they had just broken up? So, having said that, we're in Tampa, Florida in 1981.
Very close. It is October 26, 1982. Tampa, Florida. This is right when Kevin Sullivan had returned to Florida from Memphis, I believe. And there were whispers. Steve Kern, if you remember, sent in a video with Lance Russell saying, as a warning to the wrestlers in Florida, Kevin Sullivan has changed. It's not
He's not the same guy. Yes, yeah. Okay. All right. I was going with 81 because I was trying to remember when I was watching Sweet Brown Sugar's run and Terry Allen's rookie year, but
this is kind of the build-up to the beginning of the Midnight Rider, which would happen in the beginning of 83. All right.
Because he wasn't going to let him catch him, no.
What'd you think of Bill Watts as the Midnight Rider when he came back in 85 and all of a sudden, I've got one more silver dollar? It's a little different than Dusty saying it.
Yeah. I felt bad for Bill every time he came out of retirement after the last Stampede. He should have known it wasn't going to work the same way, but you get what you get.
Do you think anything could have saved the Midnight Rider in 88?
No, because the audience had changed. Just because Dusty still liked Willie that much didn't mean that was the hot thing. And it was national instead of in Florida. That worked for that audience. That worked, but nationally they didn't get it. And Dusty was 7 years old or 6 years old or whatever.
All right, Jim, this next program's an interesting one. The opening contest, Dandy Jack Donovan from Hollywood versus Paul DeGaulle, Houston, 1 fall, 15-minute time limit. Second event, Louis Tillett versus Indian Joe from South America, 1 fall, 15-minute time limit. A special event, Betty Boucher versus South Africa's Moolah.
Huh.
1 fall to a finish, one of 2 main events. Oh, no, excuse me. That previous match, Moolah, was 1 fall to a finish. Jim, 2 main events here, both 2 out of 3 fall, 1 hour time limit. John Paul Henning versus Skull von Stroheim. And Big Bill Dromo versus Kurt von Stroheim.
Okay, Kurt. Dandy Jack Donovan being at a preliminary, he was usually used fairly well, but this is a while back. Louis Tillett on the card. Indian Joe, Indian Joe and Paul DeGaulle, I have no idea. Louis Tillett was a classic heel. He was also one of the Fargo brothers for a brief period of time. He was Joe Fargo. And Boucher and Moolah, this is in the 60s. It has to be just because of that. John Paul Henning was a big-time babyface in a variety of places in the 60s, and he was big in St. Louis, as I recall. And Big Bill Dromo was a Southern heel for most of his career, but being as this might be Georgia, I bet he was a babyface in this instance because he's going against one of the von Stroheim brothers. And that was, I don't even know who else they may have worked as, because imitation the sincerest form of flattery. When the Expresses took off in the 80s, everything was an Express. And when the Road Warriors took off, everybody had face paint. When the Von Brauners became one of the hottest teams in the business, then all of a sudden you had German brothers out to yin yang that were all bald with beards, and Von Hess and Von Schatz and Von Stroheim and Von Brauner and Von Steiger. And so it's a city auditorium in Atlanta, Georgia in 1966. I don't fucking know.
All right, Jim, we're in Dallas, Texas at the Sportatorium.
Well, son of a bitch.
May 19th, 1964. An interesting program because it appears Jack Pfeffer was involved here. And this is, of course, after he helped destroy the Chicago office the year before, into this year.
Thought he'd go down and finish off Dallas.
A few notes here from the program. Champ Thez injured and will delay Dallas date temporarily. Thez was to be here next week on next week's card. Now in June. Most of the program was put together before the bulletin from Champ Lou Thesz's headquarters that the 6-time champ from Thez headquarters...
Champ.
he will not be able to defend in Dallas next Tuesday. So there's that going on here. Free mat bouts in the morning. Select a ringside seat in comfortable Studio B of KRLD TV tomorrow morning and sit in comfort as 2 star-packed matches are unreeled for the filming of Studio Wrestling, which will then be seen on Channel 4 at 5 p.m. It's all fun and free for the finest wrestling fans in the land. Be there as a guest of Ed McElmore. You are welcome at no charge. The top stars are in bouts.
I believe they mentioned that.
They really must want people on TV. Jim?
I was just going to say this. Therein lies maybe they were having trouble. And this is right maybe at the time that Fritz was going to make some kind of move down there or whatever. But if they were begging people, I'm just thinking the Memphis TV studio, you had to write in and get tickets, and there was like a 6-month waiting list. And all the little kids from the neighborhood would hang out in the parking lot because if people didn't show up, that's how all those little kids got in. Because they'd take their place when they had extra seats. I can't imagine just begging people to come on a 12-hour notice.
You brought up Fritz. It says here, many fans are clamoring to see Fritz von Erich beaten here. McElmore is in negotiation with the powerful Iron Claw expert, and we may have a von Erich bout here shortly. So Fritz was not in the territory actively at this time, but next week, the Black Orchid. And on the front cover is a photo of the Black Orchid. This was one of Jack Pfeffer's guys.
Yeah.
Sensational Super Negro star Black Orchid here Tuesday. Husky Negro Ace should be next big star here. Starts next week. If promoter Ed McElmore could present all the Negro match stars in one night, he stated he would rather present only one who has never been here, the fabulous Black Orchid. And next Tuesday night on that big championship card, the Black Orchid will be here. So that's the card Thez was supposed to be on. And
maybe Thez got hurt because he didn't want to work with the Black Orchid.
And his rating and reputation almost make it a certainty that he will meet one of our top men. He wears a very sporty outfit into the ring, sometimes spangles and white gloves, plus sunglasses, and often, as not, a top hat. But it's what happens when the bell rings that makes him such a standout. He somewhat resembles Sweet Daddy Siki in looks, but his style is a little faster and rougher.
But he works much cheaper.
And he looks just like Sweet Daddy Siki.
I know this is straight coming from Pfeffer, including the redundancies repeated redundantly. And he's taken Sweet Daddy Siki's gimmick and fucking put it on the guy that nobody's ever going to hear from again.
As big a hit as he has been everywhere else, it's a cinch he'll be a top attraction here. Be sure to make plans for this big, big one next Tuesday. Tickets go on sale Friday morning at the Downtown Ticket Agency, 1509 Elm. Buying them in advance ensures quick and proper seating at match time. All right, so there's that big, big card. Jim, our next...
I'm feeling lucky, Brian, on this one.
All right, we got two more here today. Two more. Not that they'll be easy. Jim, the opening contest. 1 fall, 20 minutes. Dory Denton versus Jap Hamanke.
I saw. Now say what? What?
Jap Hamanke.
J-A-P.
Hamanake.
Okay, at least it's not Duke Hanamoka.
1 fall, 20 minutes. Ted Key versus Cy Williams. Jim, the next contest. It says 3:20, so I guess 2 out of 3 20-minute time limit. Stonewall Stewart versus Pat Riley, Otto von Bussing, and Vic Hill.
Wait a minute. So it's Stonewall alone. It's 3-on-2 is what it is.
I'll just tell you what it says here. The 303-pound Stewart agrees to toss all three within 20 minutes or lose.
Okay. So who are the three fellows there again? The names?
Pat Riley, future coach of the Lakers and the Knicks.
That's
Riley.
what I was thinking.
Otto von Bussing. I don't know who that German is. And Vic Hill.
And okay, well, Otto von Bussing, he was very controversial in the 70s. You got Pat Riley of the Knicks, and Vic died on that hill and Stonewall stood. Okay, go ahead. What's next on this all-star lineup? Fucking jack off.
Jim, 1 fall, 20-minute time limit. The Masked Marvel versus Nick Luz. Luze.
Would that even be Nick Lutz?
I'm giving it to you the way it's spelled here.
Okay, yeah.
1 fall to a finish. Vern Baxter versus Dan Savage, who's also known as Dan Boone Savage, it says here, so I'll give you that one.
Oh, so it's Whisker Savage, Daniel Boone.
I'm giving you one
Savage.
thing. I'm giving you something.
Okay, well, Dan Savage sounds like a goddamn that advice columnist in the sex therapist fucking column. Whisker Savage, Daniel Boone Savage is who that is. That helps me a little bit.
2 out of 3 falls to a finish. Jules Strongbow versus Gino Garibaldi.
Good Lord.
And finally, the main event, Jim. 1 fall to a finish in mud. Sandor Szabo versus Prince Boo, B-H-U, Pinder. And this is a Hindu-style match in 8 inches of mud.
Yes, the Hindu mud match, because over there in Hindu land, they wrestle in the mud. That was back in the ancient days of wrestling, the 30s, 40s, etc. When they were doing the gimmick matches because of the Depression, World War II, etc. That became a thing that the Hindus were famous for, was wrestling in mud. All right, Dory Denton.
And by the way, holds below the waist are barred.
Well, as in all good company, they would be when you're rolling around in the mud. You want to make sure you're not grabbing the wrong thing. Dory Denton being on the card, I thought we might be in Amarillo just for the first 5 matches or so, because that's the only person I'd ever heard of. Ted Key and Cy Williams and Stonewall Stewart and Pat Riley and the Masked Marvel, and maybe it might be Nick Lutz, but I don't. Laverne Baxter was an old-time heel, and Whisker Savage or Daniel Boone Savage, before he became Whiskers Savage, was one of the biggest draws in the history of Houston, Texas. Jules Strongbow would later on become the matchmaker and the TV announcer in Los Angeles, and that happened by the late 50s, so this is before that. And Gino Garibaldi, a member of the Garibaldi family, right? And what relation was he to Leo? He was
Leo's father.
He was Leo's father. And Leo was the one that published Garibaldi's Grappler, the program in Texas in the 60s.
Austin, Texas. One of the best programs, actually, of that era.
And Sandor Szabo was a star from the 30s. He was a main event guy. Prince Boo Pinder was one of the early Hindu heels. This could be in Texas because of the mud match and Dory Denton, or in Los Angeles because of Jules Strongbow and Sandor Szabo and Garibaldi. And it's so far back. Would this have been in the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles during the World War II years? I'm going to say 1940 fucking 3. What?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, by the way, there's another thing in here. It is Nick Lutz because it's spelled separately, L-U-T-Z-E, and a separate thing here.
Okay.
We are in the Olympic Auditorium, Los Angeles, California.
Or am I too new?
October 23rd. Well, this is the program. The actual date of the card, October 20th, 1937.
Shit. I was too new.
The big story in this program is covering a card last week. Because there are so many cards every week. This program, you've probably seen these. This is the Knockout.
Yes.
It covers boxing and wrestling. In 1 week, we have Olympic wrestling, San Diego wrestling, San Francisco wrestling, Long Beach wrestling, Pasadena wrestling, Wilmington wrestling, and Eastside wrestling. Those are all the ones at least listed in this program. A full run of shows. The big story from the week before, On the 11th in Hollywood, wild scenes follow as Danny McShane snatches crown from Berry, Wild Red Berry. Richard Lane kisses Champ as women scream and words flew. Ledoux and Orth clash Monday in Showdown to get title go. And this is right when Danny McShane had beat Wild Red Berry to win the World Light Heavyweight Championship, which was still a really big deal at the time.
And Richard Lane, of course, was Dick Lane, who even then was affiliated with wrestling and boxing. People in the 50s, 60s, 70s would know him as the wrestling announcer for Los Angeles, and he did roller derby for the, LA T-Birds, and then the whole, the syndicated television. Whoa, Nelly! But he was also a character actor in Hollywood at the same time back in the 30s.
All right, Jim, one final program here today. I'm going to give you one right down your alley. Opening contest, Lily Martinez versus Angelo Poffo. Girls match, Cora Combs versus Kathy Branch.
Okay.
Other outstanding bouts, Mr. Clean versus Baron von Raschke. Special bout, Edouard Carpentier, world-famous Flying Frenchman, versus the Big K. A fabulous World Tag Team title bout, the Incredible Chain Gang, Jack and Frank Dillinger, versus Wilbur Snyder and Pat O'Connor. And finally, Jim, the main event, a sensational main event, world title event, a wire cage match, battle to a finish, with wire cage door locked. Dick the Bruiser, #1 world title contender, versus champion Blackjack Lanza. Manager Bobby Heenan will not be allowed in wire cage.
All righty then. We are in Indianapolis, Indiana. And at first I wasn't sure of the time frame, but since, first of all, Luis Martinez and Angelo Poffo worked on and off for Bruiser and all over the Midwest all through the 60s. And then Luis Martinez still in the 70s and is for Chic as well, while Poffo went off and did the stuff with Phil Golden, his own company, etc. Cora Combs was not booked by Moolah. She was booked out of Nashville, which is why she's on this card against Kathy Branch, who was it the daughter of Tom Renesto or his niece? Or it was his daughter,
I don't
right?
know. I was going to ask you because the name Branch, if there was a relation, but I'm not sure.
Because Tom Renesto Jr. used the name Tom Branch for a while.
Right. And he looked like Ron Jeremy out there, if you ever see any footage of him.
Yes, very, very similar. Mr. Clean, I think, was just a local guy that Bruiser may have used at that point as a gimmick underneath guy. Baron von Raschke being on the card kind of narrows down the time frame because he's just on a preliminary, but he would be Bruiser's next big heel. Carpentier on the card, he was still working for Vern and Shots in Chicago and the AWA at this period of time. He hadn't fully gone back to Montreal yet. The Big K was Stan Kowalski, who along with Tiny Mills in the early 50s was the team of Murder Incorporated on the Dumont Network. And Bruiser brought Stan Kowalski back as Killer Kowalski in like 1977 when he was, my God, he had to be 60 almost. Big old fat fella. And said the original Killer Kowalski instead of our friend Walter. Of course, he never used that name before, but he was the original Kowalski. Jack and Frank, the Chain Gang. Obviously, that's Don Fargo, and I can't remember what Frank's last name was, but he's about to get shot, isn't he?
I would think so.
Snyder and Pat O'Connor. Wilbur Snyder was Bruiser's partner. Pat O'Connor was working the St. Louis office and involved with the St. Louis office, I think, even at that point in time, and also around the Midwest. He was still a major name, but he'd have come in from St. Louis. And Bruiser and Lanza, with Lanza the champion, this is before Blackjack Mulligan, when Lanza was a single and Heenan managed him. And the only question is, in my mind, is this mid to late 1969 or early 1970 in Indianapolis? And a card this big would probably be at the Fairgrounds Coliseum, but they were still running some shows in this era at the old Southside Armory, but probably the Fairgrounds Coliseum.
You did not hone in on a year. You said it could be this year or it could be that year.
I said, so let's make it 1970.
All right, Jim, it's Friday night, August 29th, 1969.
God damn it.
Indianapolis at Busch Stadium.
Busch Stadium. They ran outdoors in the summertime with the big cards in those days.
Well, there it is, Jim. Busch Stadium, a stadium show here, and this is a Bob Luce program. So let me just give you the headline. Do kill men rule the pro mat? Read the shocking truth inside. And of course, the inside part will tell you, Gagne. Go ahead.
I like Kill Breed better. The Kill Breed, new Kill Breed in the ring.
Gagne, Snyder, Bruiser, Crusher demand bouts with Kill Men. Midwest promoter Bob Luce will sign Showdown. So watch out, Kill Men. And I guess the Kill Men on the cover here are Mad Dog and Butcher Vachon, as well as the Chain Gang. And there we go. Guess the program. Jim, it seemed like you had a little bit more focus there at the end. You kind of honed in on exactly where it is. And of course, we know a way that I like to focus when I edit and other people can focus. Hocus pocus focus. Here's Jim Cornette.
Well, that's the thing. Our friends at Ultra Pouches, they've got the secret where I just honed right in on that. I just focused in like a laser beam. And if you'd like your focus to be laser-like, where you can literally stare at people and make their hair catch on fire, then folks, Ultra are the pouches for you. They're not these nicotine pouches. It'll give you all the heebie-jeebies and the jumpy frumpies. And it's not bad for you. It's not giving you unnecessary cardiovascular stress during workouts or raising your blood pressure because you're chewing on all this nicotine that comes from all of this, the tobacco product. It's like putting dirt in your mouth and sucking on it. You don't want to do that. Do you want to suck dirt, Brian? You don't want to suck dirt, do you?
And again, I wouldn't even put that thought in the mind of the listeners because that's not what will happen with these great products from Ultra Pouches.
Well, no, that's when you're putting all that tobacco nicotine stuff. And the Ultra Pouches, they're 100% nicotine free. They're for athletes. They're for runners. They're for health conscious people that want an instant focus and energy without vasoconstriction. That means your veins close up and your knees freeze and your liver quivers. There's no addiction that comes with the nicotine. Well, this is all clean ingredient. These ingredients have been scrubbed with bleach and Bon-Ami to make sure they're entirely clean.
No. Again, we are not going to talk about a process we have not been informed about or understand. We know what the products are. We know that we like the products.
Well, that's the way I'd do it, but they probably got a better way since they're professional.
Certainly.
But again, it won't disrupt your sleep because there's no caffeine either. Not only the nicotine, but the caffeine. See, it's all this ENE that gives you a problem. And that way it won't fuck up your sleep when you're laying there at night trying to count the sheep, but the sheep are all growing fangs and turning towards you screaming, brains, brains, instead of bah, bah. So just bah those black sheep away because you won't get with Ultra Pouches. You will not have sheep with fangs invading your sleep. That's a factual statement right there.
You will not, again, one thing has nothing to do with another.
You will not have,
certainly say that, yes.
You will not have werewolf-like sheep invading your sleep if you have. It's worth it right there. Just to guard against that. Do you know the fucking fatality rate for werewolf-like sheep attacking people in the middle of the night in their dreams? My God, it's off the charts.
All right.
Just get some and stick one in your face to keep the fucking sheep away.
Once again, I like to use it to edit the fine shows you listen to that sound so good. A little extra focus for a little extra audio love. But Jim, whatever you need it for, it is there and it is good. The watermelon is the one I will recommend because the taste is so fine, but
well, they have cool mint and wintergreen and tropical and blue raz. I wish they had the full raspberry. But that's the other people. That's the other people. And we give the your pouches other people because Ultra's got our business. Zero nicotine, zero caffeine, trusted by top athletes, entrepreneurs, and engineers around the world. I'm a fine connoisseur of things, and if you want to be in the same sewer as me, right now, Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine, and new customers can use the code JCE to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's takeultra.com. 15% off with the code JCE. Tell them we sent you there to rid your sleep of the werewolf-like sheep that are haunting you and trying to suck your jugular veins. You shouldn't get sucked by werewolf sheep in your sleep. Just good, calm, ordinary folks. That's what happens with Ultra pouches.
That's not what happens with Ultra pouches, but once again, I like them.
Some of these pouch whores wandering the streets these days. They'll do anything for a pouch.
Friends, that organ sounded so good before, it'll sound good again later when I focus with my Ultra pouches. Jim, one final time, a great deal for the listeners. How can they get that deal?
Yes, indeed. That is the takeultra.com, 15% off with the code JCE, just right there. New customers, just jump in there and get some.
Ultra! And of course, Jim, with that, we're going to begin our home stretch here, but a few things to tackle before we get out of here, as we are recording a clip that has gone viral from Ring of Honor, which I believe aired last night on YouTube. Mark Sterling, Smart Mark Sterling, the
I think he needs to change that nom de plume from Smart Mark to maybe Slow Mark.
Well, the wrestling lawyer manager, probably most famously involved in that great post-MJF Wardlow feud. He's managing someone. I didn't even see what was happening other than this bump. He's managing someone, and he took an all-timer, an all-header, maybe we could say. But what do you think of this? I'm sure you've seen it.
Well, yeah, it's on the internet everywhere. And it's just like it's a 5-second clip, but this masked fellow jumps up to the turnbuckles and does the springing drop kick like Jericho does with the clothesline. But he's springing drop kicks poor old Mark Sterling while he's standing on the apron of the ring. And I don't know what, I'm sure he was trying, apparently, to take a flat back bump on the apron and then roll to the floor. That's the closest thing that I can figure is what he thought he was going to do. But I don't know what he was thinking as to how he was going to accomplish that with what he did here, because he turns toward the guy to take the drop kick, but he let go of the top rope with both hands. And instead of going straight down to the apron, he was leaning back somewhat, and the middle of his back hit the apron, and he just goes straight down with his feet up in the air and on top of his head, which crumples up underneath him. And then his feet, he scorpions him. Well, he reverse scorpions himself. When he lands on his head, his knees come over and land on the floor in front of his face.
He gave himself a crossroads off the apron.
Yes, yeah, that's what he did. Yeah, an invisible fucking person crossroads did him. But here's the thing. all he had to do was keep his right hand on the top rope, because that not only kept him from going too far out, but that's your guide when you're taking your bump to where you are. So you know how far you are away from the rope and how much apron you have under you. But since he let go and kicked his feet up, then gravity took over.
I'm watching this on a loop. I can't stop.
Yeah, and you can't stop watching it. It's
the way his feet, when he lands, his feet just come flying over.
But, and so, now I used to take the apron bump where, the manager apron bump. If I'm standing there, the guy comes across, either hits me or drop kicks me or whatever, I would kick my feet to my right and go down that way, not only because if a right-handed person punches you, your head would turn that way, and it just seems like that goes with the flow. But I would have the top rope under my armpit. And as that way I'm somewhat steady and I'm a stationary target for the guy to hit. But as soon as he hits me, then I've got my hand around the top rope and I push off not only kick my feet up, but push off the top rope a little bit with my armpit. And I'm in the air, but I'm still holding onto the rope, and I land on the apron and I roll off. Well, this guy was coming from the side, but he still could have done somewhat of the same fucking thing.
Is that Commander? Is it Commander that's doing this?
I don't know who all these masked fucking guys are, but that just, I mean, I hope he's okay. I don't wish him any ill, but I don't see how you couldn't have fucked yourself up landed like that. And it was completely on him. There was nothing the guy drop kicking did wrong or could have done to help this.
Have you ever thought about how much bigger some of the things you've done, like, Midnight Rock and Roll, Midnight Road Warriors, whatever, if you had just given yourself a DDT off the apron onto the floor?
Yeah, it's head first. Thank you. At least his head was to the side.
Oh,
so
it's brutal. It's brutal. It's brutal.
It didn't just compress it completely. It just should have snapped it off. But well, they got pads now, the kids. So there's that. It wasn't concrete.
There it is. That's one of the nastiest bumps we've seen in a while. Jim, a few things happening in NXT. A clip that was going around, rather short, but it kind of fits in with this era. We talked about Grayson Waller's return promo recently. CM Punk appeared on an NXT house show this past weekend, and there was a backstage confrontation with CM Punk and Grayson Waller. Did you get to see this?
Well, I saw it. It's a brief clip. It's going around, and it was shot with someone's phone. It's not meant to be seen, right? It was not mic'd or anything. They were just, backstage arguing, and somebody caught it, right? And I appreciate, again, I said the other day, I love Grayson Waller now. And he's got himself in shape, and he's determined on the promos, and he's got a mission. And this is maybe picking at nits because they're trying to, say that he's trying to disrupt shit and he doesn't care whose face he gets in. He's not going to be timid around anybody anymore. But the one little thing, when he went up to Punk and said, well, this is my house, and did you call me to ask permission? That's what I didn't like. Do you know why?
No, why?
Because if they're trying to make people believe that this really was an impromptu thing that happened and it wasn't part of the program and blah, 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 would Grayson Waller have really said that if this was a shoot? Because he knows nobody has to call anybody and ask for permission. Punk's there because they booked him there. And maybe he said, yeah, I'll go down and work one of the NXT shows to give back or whatever, but they booked him there. So it's to the exact audience that they're trying to appeal to most with the shoot stuff, they're the ones that know that that's bullshit. It's a bullshit statement that you wouldn't make if you really had an issue with somebody. what I would have done is have Waller come up and say something snotty like, hey, did you see I did your pipe bomb better than you did? What? Oh, yeah, good for you, kid. No, really. I'm going to do everything better than you did, mate. And do you see what I'm saying? Something that Waller could be disrespectful, uppity, out of his place, mouthy, whatever, but something that he might really say that might really apply rather than, well, you're going to call me to ask permission before you come to my house. Because everybody knows it's goddamn TKO's house. Does that make any sense?
Yes, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't have a problem with that if the whole thing is he's come there and he's putting down the other people that work there. He's trying to separate himself from everybody and say that he's different, he thinks different, he acts different, talks differently than everyone else on the NXT roster.
Yeah, so let him be an out-of-control egomaniac and tell Punk, I'm doing this here right now because I'm coming for your spot.
See, I think
what, are you delusional?
I think the line does make him an out-of-control egomaniac when he says, this is my call before you head over the river, make sure it's safe. You know, I think that kind of established it, you know?
I don't know. I would have think he wouldn't say this is my house. He'd say I'm down here for a couple weeks until everybody sees how great I am, so that I'll be up there taking your spot, big boy. Give him the Jacques Rougeau line. Jacques said to Lawler when he was just starting the Memphis territory at time in the car on the way to Nashville, what's the matter, big boy? You afraid I'd get over you?
But just another sign of that big, bad, mean CM Punk working with a young talent and helping him out.
Yeah, I tell you, he's a fucking cancer. God damn it. I wish he'd quit giving back.
Jim, speaking of giving back, NXT, the last couple of weeks, there have been a few things that listeners have wanted to hear your thoughts on, and it kind of started with the Mason Rook run, the Grayson Waller return, and now another member of the Anoa'i family has debuted in NXT. Let's talk about Zilla Fatu.
Zilla Fatu. What? I mean, unless he's a giant lizard, is Zilla... Do we want to go with Zilla as the final name, the final that everybody gets to hear?
I don't mind it. You don't like it? You don't think it passed the name test?
Well, the thing is, if they're saying he's maybe the giant 7-foot one should have been Zilla, Godzilla Fatu or whatever, but he dresses like The Rock. He kind of looks like he's, the Solo's clean younger brother even. He's a kind of a baby-faced kid. He doesn't look like a monster or a beast. And he's obviously a member of the family. He's a tremendous athlete. I hadn't seen him before. I know he's been around. I've seen the name. But he, in his stuff in the ring looks great. I don't know with what they're doing already with the whole family. Do we need another one? And does he need to look like he was rummaging through Ricky Starks' closet?
Well, he has the tattoos on his face. That kind of separates him from the average athletic guy getting signed, so it makes him stand out a little bit.
Actually, not anymore. Fuck, you see people on goddamn the midday news that are working behind a counter of a fucking store opening that have tattooed faces. Everybody on the front row of the WWE, the celebrity row, that is, they've all got tattooed faces.
It's funny, Bob Lefsetz just wrote an article recently. He's a music industry insider who's had a newsletter that he sends out via email for at least 25 years. I started getting it years ago at Sony. Just how tattoos and long hair are no longer signs that you're rebelling against anything. It just means you're fitting in with something. Like the tattoo, when someone had a tattoo, we talked about it the other day, they stood out. Man, Harley Race must be a bad motherfucker. He's got them on two different arms.
Yeah.
And then just every girl started getting tribal tattoos and this and that. And I think it's too much. Like it's fitting in. It's not standing out. And long hair used to be the same way, but it goes to what you're just saying here about the tattoos on Zilla Fatu and again, I don't know if anyone else has any on their face, but lots of other people have them on their neck at this point.
We've already covered the neck tattoos.
But with NXT, Zilla Fatu had a big debut where he attacked the wrestlers. Let's talk about this.
Well, again, they're trying to create some controversy with all of these guys battling for the NXT title because if Tony D'Angelo is, bless him, is still there after all these. What did Waller say? You're the only one left. And what is Santana's new name now?
Cruz Montana.
Tom Cruise. Oh, yes, Cruz Montana sounds like a tourism slogan. I haven't watched enough to determine who the baby faces and who the heels really are, but I have a feeling that if I did, I still wouldn't know because they're probably just doing the same thing. They're just having everybody argue with everybody else and it gets lost in the translation. But I liked Zilla's in-ring debut. I wasn't the splashes and et cetera. I wasn't particularly as fired up about the promo because, he sounds a little young and a little un-Samoan yet. He doesn't. I mean, it looks like he is Dr. Jekyll and fucking Jacob Fatu is Mr. Hyde.
Did you hear where he said he's not another nympho baby?
Oh shit! Thank you for bringing that up.
That's the highlight. Because
I'm sorry, I've missed that, and that should have been the first thing I said. But yes, he was trying to say he wasn't another nepo baby, and he wasn't another nympho baby. and that's why I'm saying it's not like when I saw Jacob Fatu, I said money, 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 money. When I see Zilla, I spare change. Right now, let's see what they do with him. But he ain't just another nympho baby.
That is one of the funniest unintentional lies I've heard in a while.
Well, there's a lot of those Samoans. Maybe they are nymphos.
What do you think of the pushback that some fans, you see in some places, they kind of don't want another member of the bloodline. They're kind of sick of these guys filling up the roster. Is it fair or unfair?
Well, they're not filling up the roster. They've got 175 fucking guys and girls on the roster in some respect. They might be getting a few chances to skip to the head of the line just because of the gimmick of the bloodline, but you got to watch out. Are you starting to water this thing down? Remember when Solo brought the fucking wild panda bears in, the face-painted Tongans? Now the Tongans are tag team champions, but they're with Haku. They left Solo. But Tongans are very close to the Samoans in people's conception. So are we just watering this down to where that even if the creative does get a little clearer on exactly whose side we're supposed to be on, there's too many fucking members of the bloodline. It muddies it up.
Are there any girls in the family? That's the next question I have.
You know what? If they could find a girl Samoan that could work as well as the guy Samoans and still was somewhat reasonably on the cosmetically pleasing side, as they say, that might juice this whole goddamn deal up a little bit.
Yeah. She gets her bloodline once a month. But what else did you see on NXT here with Zilla Fatu? Did you see the Grayson Waller promo confrontation with Cruz Montana and Tony D'Angelo?
Well, yes, and that's what I was talking about. They're trying to do the same thing with it. They're all involved also while Zilla is coming in and saying he's going to beat the shit out of everybody. Old Antonio Cruz, or what's Cruz Montana and Tony D'Angelo. He's Italian. See, and
Cruz Montana had a match, and at one point, I think it was him and Waller. And the commentator goes, and there's Montana.
Yes,
I used his old name.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Santana, Montana. And maybe they could get Hannah to come in and be his valet. But anyway, but that's the thing is, I'm glad that Grayson Waller is being repackaged, and that's where he's got to go to get practice on it. But I don't really see anybody else in NXT, either the time we watched it a while back or when we revisited because of Mason Rook, or now I'm not wearing shades because I don't see the future being that bright. Nothing is captivating me.
Well, that is NXT. We will see what else happens. Jim, one final thing here this week. We'll get more questions next week. But a bunch of listeners have sent this around mainly because the Wrestling Observer newsletter and Figure 4 website have put this video up. Wanted to get your thoughts on it. The name of the video is Dave Meltzer Sets the Record Straight on His Absence on Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, boy.
Have you seen any of this, Jim? Because Dave Meltzer in the past has appeared on Dark Side of the Ring. And of course, he hasn't been a part of the recent season.
Well, actually, I didn't notice until you said it. Yes, he's done a variety of the shows. I watch them because I'm on them too, so I've seen him. But when you said that explains his absence, is there any other explanation besides I'm not on every show? Nobody's on every show. Is there any explanation besides you just didn't have anything pertinent to add to this fucking guy?
Well, we'll play what he says here in a second, but let me just ask you bluntly here at the start. Have you ever requested Evan Husney not book Dave Meltzer or not use Dave Meltzer?
Hey, if I was going to have him make any personnel changes, if I had that fucking capability or that pull, I'd get Jericho dumped as narrator, put Dutch Mantel back in.
That'll be on next season, Dark Side of Canadian Tax Credits. But yes, let's get back.
Do you think if I had the pull to ixnay anybody, do you think fucking Vinny Rue would be a part of anything? No, but is that what Dave is saying?
Not that it's you, but let's go to this explanation from Wrestling Observer Radio. This is talking about the Missy Hyatt episode. Dave Meltzer setting the record straight.
Tomorrow, Missy Hyatt, Dark Side of the Ring.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. They should have asked me to be on that one, but apparently I'm off that show.
Oh, what did you do?
Oh, I didn't do anything, but I this
it used to be on.
Yeah, well, you know how things go. So a couple of years ago they did. It was the last time. I don't think it was the last time I was on. I may have been on once since then. But they.
Let me stop it for a second. This seems like another one of those things where Dave says it doesn't really matter to him, and he just goes into great detail about all the thoughts he has about this thing that clearly bothers him.
That doesn't matter to him. Well, also, again, why? Were he and Missy Hyatt longtime close personal friends? Why should they really should have had me on that? As I mentioned, I made it.
Dave would talk to Missy over the years frequently, yeah.
Well, of course, Dave, think of how many people Dave has talked to over the years, and especially when he talks like that, it takes a while. So, but I mentioned that they didn't come specifically to shoot comments with me on Missy, but I made it because they were here about Bubba and Paul Orndorff. And they said, hey, Missy, will you give me some comments? Yeah, sure, whatever. But it's not like maybe they just, with what they were getting, I don't know, you can let him explain it later here in the rest of this clip, but maybe what they were getting for the show was not worth a trip to fucking Campbell by the Sea, California.
And this season they did have John Pollock on an episode, and he has a lot of credibility, and I thought he did a good job, but let's go back to this.
He did a show, and like out of nowhere, with no context whatsoever, they had like Eric Bischoff cut this promo on me. And when I saw it, it's like, this has nothing to do with the subject or anything. I think they're writing me off the show. Wow. And in fact, that's what they did. They
writing me off the fucking, God damn it. God damn it. God damn it.
I mean, they got their experts that they got to protect, and those guys don't like me.
Let me stop it there. That's where I asked you if you had anything to do with it, because I have to think you're one of the experts, Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, I don't know who else.
Well, but first he said they're writing me off the show like it's a show with ongoing characters. It's it's a show with a different theme or with a different subject, a variation on the theme in every fucking episode. And they talk to people in each episode that have either some knowledge of the subject personally in their personal life or professionally, having worked with whatever. Yes, they've used Dave in the past. He was very instrumental in the Pillman show because he was friends with Pillman and they were fucking close.
Yeah, he had great in that one. Yeah.
By the same token, on the other side of the coin, I don't know if Ray Traylor ever fucking spoke to Dave Meltzer the first time in his life, so he wasn't asked to be on the Big Boss Man, for example, because what the fuck? So, well, it just is saying that they wrote him off the show and that they had to, because experts that they've got to protect. A lot of the shows have been centered around either the chaos at WCW or people that were instrumental talents in WCW. So you got to have Bischoff, whether you believe what he says or not. At least he's a pleasing television personality, unlike Uncle,
But he's saying it's to protect their experts. And again, there's only a few people he could be referring to. Do you think Eric Bischoff would have said, you better not have Dave Meltzer on this episode?
But that's the thing. When he said they had him cut a promo, I'm sure that he needed like me with Russo. He needed no fucking prodding whatsoever to cut a promo on Dave Meltzer, did Eric Bischoff. So it's not like the producers don't say, hey, can you just blister this fucking guy? They say, well, what is your take or what do you think about this, whatever the fuck?
Yeah, see, I don't remember the example. It could have been just Dave was on an episode, he said something, and then they went to Bischoff, what do you think about what Dave Meltzer said here? And he went off.
Yeah, I think he's a fraud because that's what he always calls Dave. Instead of, he could say, I think he's mentally lost it like we do, but he just calls him a fraud. But experts, they got to protect. How is Dave in his appearance on a show about a possibly deceased wrestler? When has he ever had an argument with one of the other experts? No, what he said absolutely wasn't true. So how is that protecting the experts that are giving their, his feelings are hurt because he thinks he ought to be on the show. And he's not a made for television personality, especially in his declining years now. We've heard how he speaks. It's not that he's that much more pleasing to look at. And he's not saying shit in an exciting way. And if he's not personally involved in the topic and they got to go all the way to California to get his thoughts, what the fuck?
So, I actually think that the probable reason was the Tale of the Territories episode on Hawaii, because it was so bad. And I said it was so bad. I mean, you can't just be making things up. But the most famous match in the history of that island was the Nef Mayava Curtis Aokea match, which turned into a riot. And, on that show, and granted, it was Curtis's son who said this, Rocky, that, at the end, the riot was quelled by Peter Maivia coming out, and he was saying, please, you're disrespecting us. And everybody stopped rioting. When in fact, Peter Maivia never even came to Hawaii until 7 years after that match. And it's just like, you can't, you know what I mean? It'd be like telling the story, I mean, literally, of like the Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant match and saying that, Roman Reigns ended, the match at the end, or John Cena. I mean, that's how completely.
See, let me stop him there. He has
I don't know. I think 35 years would be worse than 7 or whatever, but
I think you have a valid point. And I've pointed out historical inaccuracies and dark side stuff, especially Tales from the Territories in the past.
I think we mentioned a lot of the Hawaii stuff with Lia Maivia and all that stuff but Rock was an executive producer.
Rock. That was Dwayne Johnson and Danny Garcia producing that show with Darkseid. So that episode can be blamed on The Rock, I think, more than even Evan.
Well, but let's hold on. The point is that here's the thing. Yeah, everything in the world, somewhere or another, can be blamed on The Rock if we work hard enough, Brian. But besides that,
I knew you'd come around to my side.
The guy was telling a story about his dad's fucking big riot, and that's probably a story that he had heard. And that's why it was Tales from the Territories. All those guys were telling their stories. Some of them may be wrestlers' exaggerations. Some of them may be apocryphal. We have pointed out historical inaccuracies and things that were left unclear in every one of the Dark Side of the Rings. And guess who they ain't canceled off the show yet?
Yeah, really.
Me. So maybe it's the way that Dave delivered that. Maybe it's because he sounded like a goddamn old widow woman who hadn't had her prune juice that day. So I can't be associated with this if you're going to fucking put Peter Maivia in Hawaii 7 years before he actually got there. Well, we just have nothing further to talk about.
Again, I think complaining about historical inaccuracies in something that's supposed to be a wrestling documentary or something telling the truth is one thing, but I've been as critical as anyone about Darkseid stuff. I think this is a bit ridiculous. Dave, like you said, the Pillman episode, I think Dave had to be on because of his involvement with Kim Wood and Brian Pillman. But if they have other experts, and to me, the experts are not really the commentators or talking heads. John Pollock was an expert. Dave, in the past, for things, has been an expert. The other issue is Dave's not good on the air, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but Darkseid is a very specific way of filming. If your eyes are darting all over the place, I'm being serious, because they're right in front of your face. They film
and also with the lighting they use, if you have giant moles that are looking like they're turning into heads of lettuce all over your face, the shadows that they cast can be distracting.
So if Evan and Jason made the decision they didn't want Dave Meltzer on this season, for whatever reason, whether it was travel, whether it was... Again, you can't deny that Dave's credibility hasn't taken a lot of hits the last several years. And
John Pollock is younger. John has a hipper audience, a better voice. And also, guess what? You know where Vice is? Canada. Toronto. You know where John is? Canada. Toronto.
That's right.
What the fuck? Or let's go to California for the human broccoli to give us his thoughts.
So in this clip, Dave has said that it was because the experts have to be protected, but then he also said that he really thinks it's because of Tales from the Territory. So clearly he's not sure why he's not on there anymore, but he brought this up. He's the one who said he should have been on the Missy episode.
Yeah.
And made this a thing.
I think, if they just went ahead and booked him and Prince Iakea to have a fucking death match, then the winner could be back on the show.
Imagine if next season they do Dark Side of the Ring Dave Meltzer. And then, the worst thing possible. He reported Shibata had his brain removed. Well, we'll see what happens, but you think hogwash, right? You dismiss this entire thing.
Yes, he's not integral to the program. And like I said, I'm not on all of them. Nobody's on all of them. But I would obviously think that Bischoff would be a more noteworthy person to have on talking about all the WCW-centric stuff. And I have somewhat of a following, as we've established, and people send in their kind words about my appearances, which is why I get more of them. I think Dave is just suffering from a bad television face and a goddamn whiny attitude.
And there are other experts that can be contacted
that can speak English in a more clear fashion.
Well, Jim, with that, hey, where is this? The drive-thru.
We're done speaking English?
The drive-thru has closed. All right, and everything's working out great today. We'll be back in a few days on The Experience, where the greatness continues in a few days. And of course, next week, Back here on the drive-thru, go through the archive, patreon.com/Cornette, $5 a month. Get you access to the archive going back to 2013, patreon.com/Cornette. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, go today and subscribe. Check out full episodes, clips of the episodes, omnibus collections, that George Livinitis artwork that you love, that great guest artwork from Freeman. Check it all out today. Just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. And also don't forget the Arcadian Vanguard video channel for classic Cornette clips. Cornette's collectibles at JimCornette.com. What's going on, Jim?
Good old-fashioned American commerce. Send your money to JimCornette.com and you'll get things in return.
From JimCornette.com. The Drive-Thru is brought to you by the Law Office of Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. But until the experience in a few days and next week back here on the Drive-Thru, for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!